We are going to call our open session to order at 6:05 p.m. Now's the time for public comment for closed session items only. We do not have anyone here present in person to comment, and we don't have anything on email. So next up would be our roll call.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Here.
Trustee Dickinson.
Here.
Trustee Donnelly.
Present.
Trustee Edmondson. Present. Trustee Jackson.
Here, thank you. All right, with that, we will convene ourselves into closed session. Thank goodness. We're gonna get started. Welcome again. We're so happy to have you all here. We're gonna call our open session to order at 6:33 p.m. And I'm pretty sure I gave George enough notice for Zoom. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
For
we're
sure.
recording.
YouTube, not Zoom. Thank you so much. All right. It is always our joy and our pleasure to begin our open session with a student. And we're gonna have a student come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and mission statement reading. And Principal Albano, would you like to come on up and introduce your student as well as the teacher, Ms. Rydell, if you'd like to join?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, it is our joint pleasure to announce and to welcome the Wacho family. We'd like to first introduce our leader for tonight, Amaya, who is a third grader at Santa Cruz. We have our best friend Jade to her right, our wonderful mother Elizabeth, and
Yeah.
father Khalil.
Hi.
And Khalil Mari in the back, her big brother,
Yeah.
older teacher. We wanna just give Amaya our jazz hands and our energy to just welcome her. And it's my pleasure. She's such an amazing student. We really went through a lot of different students, and I know you have some of the information that we put up through our interview, so excited to have that read. She's an amazing SCG scholar, and for so many reasons, which we get into a little bit, but you have anything to add?
I'm just so lucky to have Hermione in my class. She is a wonderful student. I tell her almost every day that I'm just thankful that I'm your teacher. She's just always showing kindness to others. She's on direction. She's really great with all.
Yes, she's a leader in many ways, so we thought this would be a fitting occasion for her to come on up, and we're happy to have her to Santa Cruz Gardens community.
All right. Welcome.
Please stand up. Hands on your heart. Ready, begin.
To the
Flag of the United States of America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for the written. Staff, students, parents, and the community help ensure that each this child develops the skills and character necessary for lifelong achievements and responsible citizenship in a diverse world.
Amaya, you did such a great job. Amaya, are you?
We're not done with you yet.
Are you comfortable coming up here a little closer to me? It's okay if you're not. I've got some nice things to read about you. Is that okay? I've got a certificate I'm going to present to you. So these are some words of appreciation for you coming here and getting us started off on our meeting with the pledge and with our mission statement. And I'd love to read what your teacher and principal wrote about you. Amaya is a one-of-a-kind human being. She's a hardworking and kind third grader that exemplifies many of the great qualities of Santa Cruz Gardens scholars. She's been nominated to Pledge Leader for her work ethic, her empathy, her wonderful smile, and how much she cares for others, animals and plants included. Amaya loves Caesar salad, me too, homemade ice cream cake, and spending time with her many, many animals at home, including her donkeys, tortoise, cats, dogs, and favorite chicken, Henny Penny. Amaya also loves art. She enjoys making symmetrical and abstract art with Sharpies, pencils, and pastels. Amaya wants us to know that she has a lot of empathy and is strong at putting herself in others' shoes. An example she gives is the time she cried when her dad flushed a pregnant black widow down the toilet. It's a good example. She also mentions that she tries to bring her best self to school every day. The adult students and living beings of Santa Cruz Gardens agree. Amaya brings her best self with lots of added kindness, positivity, joy, and strength. Amaya hopes to help people and the planet and make sure no animals go extinct or endangered in the future. Go Amaya. That is. All right, Amaya. I would love to present you with this certificate. Usually we shake hands or elbow bump. What's comfortable for you?
Chicken.
Sweet. There we go. We are so pleased to have you here. Yeah, you're very welcome. We also have some goodies here Feel free to pick something out for yourself, your sibling at home. You've got some friends here. Please feel free to pick something out, not just for yourself, because sharing is caring, right? While you're up here looking, is it okay if we ask you some questions?
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
All right,
Hear
so
about the
you-
donkey.
Yeah.
How did you get a donkey?
I have been going to Death Valley since I was about 2 years old. Well, not 2 years old, because I was like a baby. And well, there was a lot of donkeys there, and then they all got rescued and took to homes, and we bought 2. Their names are Roscoe and Sherman. They're the best. Roscoe follows you around, and she's so hysterical. And Sherman, oh, he's just such a goofball. He was younger, he had so much dreads in his hair. He was the shy one. He was really nice though, once you get to know him. And yeah.
So you walk them around the neighborhood or at least like a dog, sounds like a dog, following around.
Because, well, they're dogs.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told them, don't stay put.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, you gotta figure it out.
So my wife also lives with a donkey, although I object to that reference. What's your favorite animal?
I have no idea. I like a bunch of animals.
Mhm.
I feel like
Good answer.
I like most animals equally.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're good. You're gonna be sitting in this chair one day.
So are you a part of the doing the chores, feeding the animals and
Well.
cleaning up and?
Mostly my brother.
Yeah.
We have to have our standards.
The food stuff and hold the baby bunnies when we have them, but like, no, not that much. I do some every once in a while, but it isn't like definitely pretty much all me. It's mostly,
Well, thanks for sharing about how things come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely can sense your love of animals. I was interested in your art. You like abstract art. Could you
Yeah.
tell me about why that's so interesting to me?
well, it's just about when I was like 6 years old. I just, started making a piece of art. I didn't know what it was, and then I just kept going until it was a big piece of art that
Wow.
I had no idea what it was.
Yeah,
It was everything.
yeah. That's
It was
so
abstract.
neat.
It was pattern and shape and just abstract.
Wow, that's really inspiring.
Wow. Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and learn a little bit about you and your passions. And I love hearing about your empathy and bringing your best self to school every day.
Yeah.
Not everyone can say that in life. We all have our ups and our downs, but really absolutely doing your best and just coming in with your whole heart, your whole self, being open to learn and participate. It means a lot. It's going to get you really far. So thank you for bringing yourself here and sharing. Family, Team Amaya, Team Amaya, thank you for being here. It's great to meet so much. Do you have any questions for us?
Well, how do you make all the decisions?
Such a good question. Yeah.
That's a good question.
So we're a 5-person board. So when you have 5 people, you need 3 people to agree. So 3 of the 5 have to agree on something in order for anything to get done.
I
So
think
it's kind of like a vote always.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
one thing that helps us make a decision though is doing our homework. So when we have meetings like this, we have a lot of pages that we read ahead of time and we think about it ahead of time, right? And then if we have questions, we ask him questions. So our goal is let's come to the meeting so that we're really prepared to have a good discussion and vote. So reading, thinking, and being curious and asking questions is super important. I'm sure you do all those things already though, huh?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you again for being here. Thank you, team and family, for being here.
Yeah.
We'd love to take a picture with you, your principal, and your teacher, if that's okay. Yeah, great. If you're willing to stand right here,
So,
then we'll all come up, get a picture.
so.
You're gonna look at this lady right here with all those
videos.
Yeah. Wanna, Michael?
Sure.
Yeah. You're welcome to join us if you're comfortable.
Lots of
We can
fun.
send you the picture or you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, there might be stand in
Yeah.
front of people, nobody's.
I'll be back.
I love the bow tie.
Yeah.
Why don't we have to get family as well? Yeah.
Okay, wait, get everybody in. Can I just watch the, oh, yeah. Here, you come in. Front in.
I can crouch too.
What a great picture.
That was a great team right there.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
It was really nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah.
You know what? What I would love is that.
Yeah.
you take pictures
Yeah, that's a
of your
winner.
animals
All right,
and
yeah.
send them.
Yeah.
Great, you know, send them to your teachers, send them to your principal, send them
Yeah.
to the superintendent.
Oh, yes, yeah, please. I know we distracted you. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
You're so shy. I hope you come out of your shell.
Yeah.
The rest of your life.
You're very welcome.
What a joy.
Yeah.
Jade, what do you want?
Yeah.
Taking care of your dad.
Mhm. What grade are you in, Jade? Also in third? Yeah, same school? No.
What school do you go to?
Uh-huh. Another nice school.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you guys will be in school together in middle school. Yeah, I bet you get to spend lots of time together.
Take your pick, you guys.
Oh, I
What
think-
do
did
you
get
like,
'em?
Jade? Did
Oh.
you get what you wanted?
Oh, yes, go for it.
You can have it. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Does your brother
Makes you
want
a real
some as
kid.
well?
Yeah. There you go. That's a very good litmus. test.
Brother,
Nothing for brother?
Oh.
there's candy, Halloween candy.
Oh, yeah.
We're not offering a notebook. Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about this. Hey, you guys take a little handful, whatever you want. Yeah.
Go for it, yeah.
I can barely eat like.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So no formal.
Anytime. Yeah.
Well, thanks for cleaning up after the animals. I mean,
Yeah.
She gave you credit.
Yeah,
That's good.
right. All right, now you can tell all your friends, come to the board meetings.
Yes.
Go for it.
Now, if you took a left twitch, you need to take. a
All
right
right. Good night. Almost.
twitch. See how this one's
We'll
left.
see you home later. No.
She'll be running the meeting.
There's a right. So you have the right and the left. Places. Yeah, here, I'll take one. We're big spenders. It's so good.
There you go. You are very welcome. All right.
Literally, my 15-year-old. I'm like, wait a minute.
Goodbye. Yes.
Stay awesome.
Oh,
All right, meeting adjourned.
yeah. Let's go. Wow.
Just kidding. We've got other great stuff in store. That was great. Thank you all.
Top that up.
Yeah. hard to.
Okay. Back to business. Next up is the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. Next up would be report out of closed session. The board did meet in closed session and there's nothing to report. Next up is consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve and adopt the consent agenda? Oh,
I move.
shoot.
I'll second.
Great. Did you get the motion in the second with all of our excitement?
Got the second, not the motion.
Bill moved. Bill moved. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. On to our next super fun one. We've got a recognition item.
Awesome.
you
So
don't
I-
mind leading us off.
Yeah, I'll tee this one up with glee. So as school district leaders, we endorse and embrace the concept of lifelong learning. And we realize learning doesn't and shouldn't be confined to four walls or within a certain range of ages. All of us also realize the challenges of adult learning. We're all busy with work, family, relationships, projects, and well, life. It's admirable when busy working professionals exhibit the time management skills and sacrifice necessary to embrace the love of learning and earn a degree while managing a full-time job. The colleagues, well, technically one is a former colleague, but still part of the SUESD family. We are celebrating tonight are the true living embodiment of what it means to be a lifelong learner. So Jackie, Jake, and Vicky, we celebrate you and we admire you. And with that, I'll pass it back to board president to share some certificates. on
Yes, yes. Well, I see Vicky.
it.
Vicky, we are presenting our certificate of recognition. for Earning a master's degree in nursing. This is awesome.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you for
Impressive.
serving our students, and that is incredible to make that journey and complete that accomplishment
Right.
while working full time. And I think there was like a pandemic also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of helped, actually.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah. You aren't going out as often.
Well,
Yeah.
No, because the program I was in, to be a school nurse, you have to get a teaching credential.
Oh.
And it's a specific teaching credential for school nurses. Well, the program I was in at Sacramento State said, if you stay one more year, we'll give you a master's. So I said, well, what the heck?
Yeah.
Might as well. You know, I already did one.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up with it.
Well, well, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Good job. Yeah.
Any questions for
Any
Vicky?
questions?
Yeah.
Do you have any pets?
You have a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta talk donkeys.
I have almost 1,500 students
Mhm.
That counts.
Yeah.
and close to 150 staff.
Mhm.
Take good care of all of us.
Uh-huh.
I have one cat and I have a fish named Bruno that ate every other fish in the tank.
Bruno. Okay.
Yeah, don't talk about it.
There you go. No, no. No, no, no.
I should tell you, Vicky is also providing some mentoring to other school nurses in the county. She's relatively new herself, but has just dived in so deep. It's also.
I
been
mean,
doing
there's not that many school nurses
Right,
out that have as
right.
much experience
in
as
that,
I do.
yeah. You
Yeah.
move up the ladder fast, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, I've been getting loaned out to this all over the place.
Was
Yeah,
this
it's
a-
been fun.
Was this a virtual course or was it in Sac
No,
State?
we only went up to Sacramento a couple of times. It was
Okay.
mostly all online and they set it up that way because I had classmates throughout the state.
How did
From
you
San
find?
Diego all the way up to Eureka. Because school nurses, there's not that many of us. And there's no way to put a whole cohort in one place.
Mm.
So pretty much all of the programs are set up that way.
Being virtual, I would think a nurse would be pretty hands-on with patients or something like that.
I'll be honest with you, school nursing is primarily we have some contact with kids, obviously, because I have to assess every child, but it's mostly administrative. I'm in charge of all of the vaccinations. I have to make sure that all of our students are vaccinated. I have to make sure that all the IEP students have had health assessments. I have to be at every IEP meeting.
Wow.
I am at a lot of the 504 meetings. So I'm very busy, but not as much, I really depend on my office staff to do the Band-Aids and boogers.
Mm.
If it isn't broken or really bleeding, I usually don't get that much involved. Or if it's something that has to be pulled out, then it's good.
And you had your nursing degree prior.
Oh,
This
yeah,
is the
of course.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a
This
whole
is
nother
the-
world.
Right.
This is, plus I also had another career before I was a nurse. There, I worked at a phone company and was a manager. So
Yeah.
Yeah. this is the second career after retirement.
It's called an encore career.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a lot.
Well, we're glad your path led you here.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations. And
you know, if you want any candy.
No,
The rest might not want any, but yeah.
Thank you. Vicky.
Have a good rest of your night.
Congratulations.
Anyone else here, right? I mean, Jake's not here. No,
We'll make sure we pass
Yeah.
them on.
So our other two honorees who we want to recognize are Jackie Gomez, who's no longer with the district, but she earned her master's degree in counseling, and we applaud Jackie for that amazing accomplishment. We're going to make sure we pass this along to her. And Jake Struckmeyer, who earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. So,
Would you hold them up and I can send them a
Oh,
picture?
okay. Both at once or separate?
I can send them to the same place. Oh,
Same-
same, oh, okay.
Same place. Okay, here we go.
Yay, thank you.
Good idea. All right, so I love that we're celebrating our lifelong learners, and thank you for Ted for keeping us up in, you know, all the recognitions. It's really important. So,
Great way to start. the meeting.
yep. Okay, next up are public communications. So in addition to speaking in person, people have the following channels for public comment. People are always welcome to email the board at any time. People who email us before the meeting, prior to 6:30 p.m. the day before the meeting, the board will read your email. We got a couple of emails yesterday that we did read. People also are welcome to email us during the meeting if they're not here in person. So if you would like to email us, if you're watching live and you would like to email us because you're not here in person, you can email your public comment to the public comment at suesd.org address. Please specify the agenda item you're commenting on, and your comment will be read aloud. Members of the audience who are here now are welcome to address the Board of Trustees. We generally ask that you fill out a comment card, but that's not always required. Did anyone here want to make a public comment? Well, thank you for being with us. Not required. Do we have any emails to the public comment?
We do not.
Okay, all right then. Moving on to our standing reports. We'll start with items from the Assistant Superintendent. Okay, you're welcome if you're ready.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I would typically kind of give a laundry list of the things that we've been working on in the ed services arena, but I think I'm just going to limit it to one tonight. And that's because it's one of the more labor intensive things that we do in our department. Interestingly, we do plan for professional learning for our staff. Classified and certificated both have an opportunity to get professional development together on Monday. So for our classified staff who isn't working that day, we compensate them for coming in, and they have an opportunity to select some of the sessions that we offer. So this coming Monday, I'll give you a flavor of some of the sessions. Equity through identity will be a session where we'll all be together. Equity through learning partnerships, and that's specific to the work that we've been doing with culturally responsive education. We have some site reflection time for the morning sessions. Then we kind of launch into a lunch that we're providing. It's going to be catered by Eric's Deli. And then we have choice sessions in double blocks in the afternoon. And those include mindful classroom practices, literacy for teachers TK through 2, so foundational skills, iReady math for the middle school, SPED 101, understanding eligibility, IEPs, and all of those kinds of things. Push Play PE, which is the new PE curriculum that we purchased. Some digging into the UFI, which is the new literacy curriculum that we bought for the early elementary grades. Digging into iReady data to inform instruction, trauma-informed classroom practices, and math talks. So those are some of the things that they're going to be working on. We're also going to be breaking into grade level and subject matter groups, and then we're going to be doing a culmination at each of the sites so they can do some planning time. All of these sessions were kind of drawn out through staff surveys that we did. So we survey our certificated staff and our classified staff, kind of asking them what they'd like. And we know that we can't offer everything to everyone, but we try to get the most selected items and then get facilitators to support some of those most requested items. And there's always more. There's always more. We also have a big team that has to kind of work as a symphony, if you will. So we have facilities, we have tech, we have food, nutrition services, all kinds of outside vendors that come in and they do our tables and we do setup. And so while it seems like it's, just one day, it's so many things that have to be coordinated for that day. And then, of course, always the worry, like, is anybody going to get something that they can take into practice, right? And so that's just kind of, some of what goes on when we plan for a day when students aren't with us. We're also working really hard, and all of the staff that come to school that day work very, very hard in their learning. So excited about that coming up. That's my only update for tonight. Thank you.
Is this at each site or just?
We're going to be coming together as a district because there's some really important things that we do together. And one of the things that we found through the survey that we sent we sent one in spring and we sent one in the fall. And one is that grade levels wanted time to be together, and not just for the grade levels at their site, but across the district, because there's a lot of things that they have to share and want to share with each other. So it starts to really ask us if we have systems where they can build capacity together. And this is one way we can do that. So we'll all be at New Brighton.
That's smart.
Yeah. Sounds like a really full and rich day. Bless you.
If you have a chance to pop by, we certainly would welcome one of you.
Thank you very much. Excellent. All right. Scott, I bet you have a few things to tell us.
Few quick updates.
Yeah.
So today was what's called CPED Census Day. So it's the first Wednesday in October, and that's when schools kind of have their point in time where whatever your enrollment is, that's what you're funded on in the future. And so we're at 1,570 students, which is, of course, as we've said, down from previous year. And that number will actually probably go closer to 1,560. Because if you remember in discussion, we let in TK students all the way through who turned 5 all the way through the end of the year, even though this year we're only mandated to let students in through April 1st. So there's about 10 students in that window after April 1st, but before the end of May, who we let in because it's the right thing to do. They get a year of TK and it's awesome. They're with our teachers and everything, but we don't receive funding for those students until they turn 5. So that number will actually be closer to like 1,560 that we get funded on. Unfortunately, with that number down, of course, we've known that's been a known quantity. So we said we got to focus on the other side of the ADA equation, which is attendance rate. So I'll just give you a brief update on that. So through August and September, into September last year, we're at 93.6%. This year, we're at 94.1%, so about a half percentage up. And in the attendance world, that's good. Half percentage is statistically significant, in my opinion. So, and then I don't know if it's a good thing the way you look at it. Statistically, it's a good thing. In October of last year, we were all in the 80s, every school, because we got hit. We had one of the variants, right? And so not a good experience, but statistically for us this year is a month to make up some numbers, so that if we're in the 93-94% range in this October, it's going to be a big increase over where we were last year. So we're very excited about that, and that we're making good strides on attendance. Counselors and school staff have worked really hard on focusing on students who may be on track to be chronically absent and reaching out to families and working with them to see how we can better support them. So we are working on that early in the school year, and we'll do it regularly. Next, I would just like to thank Callie and Amanda for representing the board on the Joint Leadership Committee, which met 1 week ago tonight. We met with Capitola City Council person Kristen Brown, City Manager Jamie Goldstein, and the 3 of us. We talked about the life in the community in general, some projects going on over at Jade Street Park, and some potential projects on our side. And I think it was a great way to kick off that team that collaborates. Also, coincidentally, Amanda and Callie, thank you for attending the Queer, Trans, and Allied Summit at Watsonville High School. I also want to thank Enrique for driving the bus, Miss Stack and Mick Witt for taking our wonderful students, 6 amazing students, came with us, and it was just a wonderful event. It was my first time attending an event. I learned a lot from the panel. And it was just wonderful to see the joy on the students' faces. You could tell the event meant a lot to them. Want to give a little appreciation to business services. The team back there continues to fill in as we recruit a new business leader. We had interviews for that position on Monday. We're going to continue the process this week, and I hope to have a name for your consideration at the next board meeting. I'd also just like to let you know how much I appreciate our administrative team. I just wanted to say that, especially we had our ADCO meeting yesterday, and we're reading the book Cultural Proficiency, just like you have. And we take time in the meeting to read, and like during that moment, it just dawned on me like how seriously they take that work. I mean, you rush in from your department or your school doing all the rushed things you have to do, and then I ask you to sit here and read and pontificate and think deeply, and they all do it, and they mark up their books and they have real discussions, and I just really appreciate the administrative team we have in this district. We have an event coming up on October 27th that celebrates our big move into renewable energy. It's a flip the switch event at Santa Cruz Gardens. I'll give you much more details to come, but we want to involve some of our students from there who are very deep into the SAGE process, and environmental literacy and renewable energy just go hand in hand. So I'm really looking forward to that event that Climate Tech will help provide some structure around. And then the last thing, I just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Haya Shabara at Soquel today. I did one of my site visits to Soquel, and as Mr. Witter and I were walking out, she was getting ready to play dodgeball with her class, and she said, "Hey, do you guys want to play?" And I've never turned down a game of dodgeball in my life. Even at 55, I decided not to start. And so Mr. Witter and I were able to engage. The kids were like just so, even though they were much better than us, they were just really good sports. And I did hear one of them say, "The principal is really good at dodgeball." So I think his Q rating went off the charts. So I just really appreciate the staff over there, and including us in some of the fun. That's all for me.
Thank you. Excellent. All right, next up are associations. Do we have anyone from CSEA? Start with CSEA. Yeah, all right. You're welcome to stay there. I'm sure we can hear if you're comfortable there. Yeah.
So I'm here representing that.
Yes.
And Enrique asked for support, so I said I would do it. And I go, what do I have to do? So basically, my name's Patty.
Hi, Patty.
I work at Soquel Elementary. I kind of sort of saw that game. And then Mr. Witter told me about it.
All right.
How cool is that?
That was so
I
fun.
gotta do that. And I'm a recess coach, and I get to work in the classroom now, which is really fun. I love that. And hearing that little girl with that much energy.
Oh, yeah.
Really was just, yes.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I like working with kids. They're just amazing. And there's nothing else really to report, I guess, from him.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. It's nice to see you, Patty, and thanks for sharing the joy about, I think one of the reasons we all do what we do is getting to support all of the kids, and
Yeah, so
it's absolutely. Yeah. What a pleasure. Well, thanks for being here. You're welcome to hang out as long as you want, and we never hold it against you if you need to leave. From SCA, I see we have Nick Switt. Do you have a report for us?
Hi, my name is M. Witt, but students call me Mick Switt. I am a 7th grade science teacher and marine science teacher at the Brighton Middle School, and I'm here to represent SEA. From SoCal reports that they are looking forward to data meetings to identify areas of student strength and needs. The 3rd grade and some upper classes are having fun learning the thriller dance right now. The 5th graders at SoCal are turning the maker's space into an open house. And the TKK had a Taco Tuesday night this past week. Finally, SoCal's school-wide assemblies continue to be great school-wide events. Opal Cliffs welcomed a new student recently who is enthusiastic, engaged, and excited about learning in the home-based school program. Another Opal Cliffs student is thriving in the hybrid program arrangement that allows them to attend certain electives on campus while completing their other studies remotely. The Opal Cliffs 3rd grader, who is traveling through Europe, has left Cornwall and is now in Copenhagen. And their virtual classmates are looking forward to hearing about the narrative travel essay the student is currently working on. Opal Cliffs has currently has space in their program and invites the community to check out their program on the district website. Main Street School appreciated their recent data meetings. which provided opportunity for cross-grade level collaboration. There were great recess activities available as well on World Anti-Bullying Day, and staff and students wore blue in recognition of this event. New Brighton echoes what other sites have said regarding enjoying exploring and using data to better meet the needs of our students. This has been particularly apparent this past week as we have started our student-led conferences, where every single student is given the opportunity to sit down and meet with both their parents and a flex teacher to review the students' goals, the students' areas in which they want to improve alongside their data. Around the school, our sustainable fishing class is consistently bringing up an amazing catch of eels, rockfish, rays, cabezon, and more. And our QSA, as Superintendent Turnbull said, recently was able to attend the Peer Use Summit, in which we heard some amazing speeches from amazing people, including some of the first openly gay and trans elected officials in California. And they particularly enjoyed the pumpkin painting workshop. All of our sites have been busy preparing or leading parent-teacher conferences and are enjoying the opportunity to sit down with all of our wonderful families to discuss the well-being of our students.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Always so comprehensive. I love it. Okay, I think it's our turn now. Items from trustees. Anyone in particular want to start?
Well, I'll start, nothing to report out on, but always appreciate the art on the wall that brightens the room here. Over there too, the sunflowers. I like these guys here too. What are these called?
I think they're geckos.
Okay, I thought there was a whole nother name for the art, so,
Yeah.
Oh, pattern art, they
said
it's pattern.
okay.
Very cool. Nice.
I'll go.
Yes.
So I have nothing to report. I just want to let everybody know, open studios, the next 3 weekends, great family event.
Do we have any students that participate in that? You know, I mean, kind of young, but.
Might, but nothing I know.
Okay.
Look at parents.
Or
I've
staff.
heard about it from a couple of parents, that their artist 57. I want to say was, it talked to me the other day about it, and I know it's going along. It's great, by the way.
Yes.
I absolutely adore going and seeing what people do and how creative everybody is. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I have nothing to report on. but,
Okay, but
You know,
Open
yeah.
Studios is awesome.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, there's a full catalog that
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
all the locations, and I just saw it at Job and Juice today. It's got some really great maps in there, so maybe we'll bring a couple in if kids are interested.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Maybe next year we can get students to display it at one of the schools.
Yeah, make new practice site.
That'd be neat. So I was sick the last board meeting, so I'm reporting for 2 chunks of time. But I attended the Santa Cruz Gardens back to school night. That was it's just great to see the different style at all the different schools and connect with the parents and the teachers there. Really enjoyed that. The Joint Leadership Committee, as Mr. Turnbull said, forming that relationship with Capitola, trying to see what we can do with them and how we can kind of join forces. The Racial Justice Task Force, I'm the alternate, or I stepped in, and that was really great to just be able to see what they were doing and the work that they're putting in. And then the Safe School Summit, that was really wonderful. Like Mixwick said, we had a Cabrillo trustee was there. We had the Monterey mayor was there. The Watsonville I forget what it's called, pro tempore mayor. But it was just really great to, hear their stories. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you. All right. I have a little more than usual. But I'll email it to you. I do want to start off my report with sharing a summary of some communications that the board has received. It is extraordinarily rare for us to have received the kind of communication that we've received in recent weeks about our superintendent. 7 separate emails from staff members to the board giving high praise and expressing appreciation for our superintendent. Sorry, you're gonna blush. Each letter writer expressed gratitude for his support of staff, his kindness, and his empathy. And this is worth noting publicly and celebrating. It is very unusual. So thank you, Scott, for being the extraordinary kind of leader who generates that kind of appreciation.
Thanks for doing it.
And just wanted to make note of that. I also want to report out on some of my activities. They have already been reported out on by others. So I did have the pleasure of attending the Joint Leadership Committee just as an introductory meeting, but it's really exciting to think about collaboration that we can do with City of Capitola to help support our current and future and past families. So that was really exciting. Also had the pleasure of attending the Queer, Trans, and Allied Summit of the Central Coast on Saturday. It's really important to me, and it's critical for all of us that we ensure that our schools are safe, welcoming spaces. And the summit had some really excellent speakers and trainings for students and parents and educators. My biggest takeaway from the summit, and I'm sure we all had our own takeaways, but was really came from Adam Spickler, Cabrillo trustee, was really the value and importance of representation, how critical that is to truly achieve equity. So I really want to extend my appreciation to New Brighton staff and the DO team, the district office team, for making sure that our students had access to this event. That's it for me. Thank you. Moving along, we are on to our first discussion item, and that is our LCAP bite discussion on LCAP updates.
Okay, great. Well, I'm happy to provide this LCAP bite tonight, and it's related to goal 2.8, and that is in alignment with dual language immersion professional development. The update really is an exciting one to give. On September 5th, Ilda Oliva, Miriam Ruiz, and Eric Witter, and those are our two teachers in our DLI program and the administrator at SoCal Elementary, attended a DLI training. And that training was provided by Estrellita, which is the supplemental curriculum that we've purchased for literacy in Spanish. And it's, I think, really important to note that literacy in Spanish is not something that you can just translate literacy in English to literacy learning in Spanish. It's a whole different way of thinking. It's a different way of teaching. It is different. And that requires a direct instruction of the educators who are instructing it. And so all three of them attended the training together. And Estrellita is a curriculum that Ilda and I looked at when we were at the CABE conference last year. We talked to the publishers and really made a collaborative decision that this is a direction that we wanted to take, and it's making really great strides, I think, at SoCal Elementary through the DLI program. So much so that we are building into our continuum bridge to the upper grades Lunitas, which is the next step past Estrellita, which will be the next training that will come up. I will say that the training was, maybe because it was virtual, was maybe not as engaging as, you know, some trainings could be, but also super effective in the way that our teachers are getting to feel supported in trying a curriculum that their peers are not needing to try, right? Because they all have kind of these individual isolated workspaces. And so for them to come together and to learn how to use this curriculum together, it's really nice. And also having your administrator with you so they know how hard you're working to create something new. And so I'm just really proud of the team there. And I'm really proud that we're putting really thoughtful and engaging like questions on the table to say, like, do we have the right things and are they working? And if they're not, what else do we need? And the CABE conference last year was a really great space for us to look at all of the offerings and talk to all of the people that we connected with about their dual language immersion classes. It's really great to have Ilda with me last year because we made some amazing connections. And I'm looking forward to going again this year and including Miriam in that team and so principal. So this is my update for tonight. Really good stuff.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from the board? I just think it's so important that as we build this program, so important for the staff to obviously get the training, but also feel that support. So thank you for ensuring that they're getting what they're needing and they've got great access to the curriculum, and having the support of their administrator also, I'm sure, is really meaningful. So thank you for letting us know.
Is there a way to make the virtual more engaging? Because I know, and I kind of read between the lines there. It was good, but it was kind of, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, you always have like your scale, right? And so when we attended the CABE conference last year, that was like our baseline, right? And that is that's off the chart. Like we have Fiesta, we have, like there's commute, like everything is so amazing. That you can't, like, if you're like, well, let's learn about this curriculum on a computer, it's not gonna measure it, right? But I would say, you know, Estrellita as a publisher is emerging in the field of dual language immersion. And I think as they become more of like the standard, I think that we'll see more of their offerings through like CABE and more of those, you know, those kind of venues. Also, they're trying to tailor to a teaching crowd, right? Like that can't always get away from their classroom, and finding a really good substitute for a dual language immersion classroom is not as easy as maybe another classroom. And so they're really just trying to find what works for schools, and it works. But we sure would like to like have them at the CABE conference, right?
Right.
So yeah,
Thank you.
good question. Yep.
All right, if we don't have any other questions or comments from the board, I'll see if anyone in the audience has any questions or comments. I'm gonna do this every time. Don't feel like you have to say anything, but you're welcome. You're here and you're welcome.
Yes, good evening. everybody.
Hi, good
Mark
evening.
Mark Junior, RSP / educated by choice and educated by passion for the gardens. I think we all
Yeah.
probably know that I'm learning what the gardens. is.
Uh-huh.
It's collaborating. That's it. I was impressed as well as inspired by the response given when our young scholar from Central Scholars asked, well, how do you make these decisions? And the connection that it's helping her understand the importance of the social skills she's learning, the importance of reading, whether it's in text or reading throughout our world, if you will, makes sense. They don't ask the phone, so I love that she asked a question that captivating response.
Yeah.
So it's really, it always is, we get a chance to see Maya and her peers really truly embrace more of their learning into how we're doing our best to facilitate what we consider access to curriculum more to the world through academic. So again, thank you for one as a lifelong learner, two as someone more education to observe her asking those of us who are already out there in the world, so how do you make decisions? Beautiful response. And again, I was inspired. And I know it gravitated makes sense. For our young scholars. Thank you. Thanks for being everyone. Look forward to collaborating with you. It's exciting to get beyond academic year. That's what's before. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being with us. We appreciate you. Thanks
Yeah.
for being an
Yeah,
educator. Yeah,
Those kids remind us every time we come in here why we do this here.
that's right.
That's
right.
That's exactly,
Mhm.
you know, the rest of the meeting, you
Yeah.
know, whatever. but
Raise your hand if
that's-
you're gonna bring your best self every day, you guys. That's right. I'm gonna remember Maya every day. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. thank you for the
you.
comment.
Wonderful. Any other questions or comments on this item? And I'm nothing on email.
Nothing on
this
email.
one. Thank you so much. We appreciate our LCAP fights. All right, our next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding our Board of Trustees Governance Handbook, first reading. So just discussing, and you know, it'll come back later.
It'll come back, yep. So this is the manual that kind of helps govern the procedures of the board and something that I inherited when I first got here and I really appreciate. Not all districts have one. And I think it's really important to be mindful about how we want to operate in our ad code teams in our classrooms. We have charters, and this is kind of like the charter for the board. This is how we want to operate. This is how we the work environment we want to be in. So every year it kind of gets stronger and stronger as more and more eyes get laid on it, more and more suggestions, just continuously improve it. And so with that said, I'm going to go through some changes that have been suggested this time. As Amanda said, these are not final. These are suggestions on the table for discussion. So page 3 under governance roles for effective trustees, a suggestion was made to add the statement that effective trustees attend school related or district events and connect to the school community. I just had a hunch that would be a hard one to argue against. So I think that that one we might agree on. On page 6, under structure and process resolutions, an idea was suggested and is explained, kind kind of tried to highlight that one so it stands out. The idea is to no longer require the superintendent's recommendation to be written on memos presenting resolutions for the board to consider. The idea could logically be extended to any action item presented to the board for consideration. On page 6, under structure and process, meeting management, step 5. That step was edited to read the board votes instead of the board discusses and votes. I think that one might be a good discussion because while almost always at that step, the board just votes. Sometimes there could be a time that a discussion can ensue. So that one will be a good topic for discussion. On page 7, structure and process, meeting management. The statement regarding public comment has been amended to better reflect the spirit and practice of the board. And under page 9, structure and process, 2 items have been added. And you have one version for consideration on the digital document, and you have one version for consideration here on the paper document. Again, these are just suggestions on the table for consideration. And those 2 new additions fall within election of officers and committee appointments, and kind of explain how that those 2 processes happen. And so we tried to provide a lot of detail within the document on the suggested changes and make them stand out, either with highlighted font or bold and italicized, or in some cases, little notes boxes. So with that, I'd love to hear your discussion input on how I should bring this back.
All right. Is it okay if we kind of go through them one by one, start in the beginning? All right. And then if, of course, if someone sees something else, I think what thoughtfully what the superintendent brought to us are things that he received ahead of time as questions and ideas from us. But obviously, if anyone has anything else they want to add in, this is our time to do that. We're not just, only considering the changes that are proposed, but these are great starting points for the conversation. This is probably an easy one on page 3 in yellow, that effective trustees attend school related or district events and connect to the school community. We all okay with adding that to the list of the things effective trustees do?
100%.
Yeah, right. We do this. This is a thing that we do, and we want to make sure that that future trustees also appreciate that.
And it's fun.
It is upright.
I like that one. I would just say, look, could we move it down to where the professional development line is, so that keep learning and achievement for all students as the primary focus is the top line?
That's a great idea.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Phil.
Can you say that one more time?
So it'd be the 3rd bullet point up from the bottom. So underneath, participate in professional development.
And I would,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
just
don't
to
want to
keep,
throw a
I
wrench
love that. Keep learning and achievement as our #1 bullet
Yeah,
point,
that
of
sounds
course.
good.
and I
Thank
don't want to throw a wrench into it, but I think advocacy should be in here somewhere.
It
Oh.
is, isn't it?
Value, support, and advocate for public education.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
Is it important to say like at a local and
Yeah.
statewide level? Is that-
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I could just say, yeah, I am.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Do people like the idea of spelling it out a little more in terms of, at the local and statewide level, or just leaving it up to each
So for
person's
example,
interpretation?
the leadership group with the city.
Yeah.
So that's not a school district, kind of thing. That's a community kind of deal. So those kinds of things.
Mhm.
I'd be fine with what was the suggestion, state and local and state level?
I don't know if that's what you were getting at, or
Yeah,
just,
and I don't know how to word it,
Mhm.
just, but that kind of, let's go beyond the district kind of commitment.
Mhm.
For
In the
example,
greater community,
Yeah.
in the
there you
greater
go.
community, is that okay?
Yes.
In the greater
Yeah,
community,
so at the end of the current one, in the greater community.
yeah, so public education in the greater community.
Got it.
That's a good idea. All right.
Yeah, so when you're not doing anything, just, I'm for it.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Those are good suggestions. We don't have anything else brought up early on this page. Are we okay to move on to the next one, or did anyone have anything else on this page? Okay. I think we've definitely spent time in past years talking about our things on page 4, our meeting guidelines, our culture, structure and process. So there wasn't anything that was that was highlighted on pages 4 and 5. If folks want to raise anything now, you're welcome to. Otherwise, we'll go on to the next. This part's very exciting for the audience, I know. This is great for us, though. This is our like internal, how we do what we do. And we actually, I know we all go back to it a fair amount. So it's helpful for us to look at it every year. Okay. On page 6, we've got the discussion on the item highlighted in green.
The resolutions.
Yes, under resolutions. The board will also act only after hearing the recommendation of the superintendent.
So this only applies to resolutions. It doesn't apply to action items or discussion items or things like that. But I'm wondering, why would we want to not have the recommendation from our highly paid subject matter expert on public education? Because I'm not that well versed in all aspects, and so I would like to have some kind of advice from the pro.
Yeah, I guess I could use a little more clarification on the why, because I think it is pretty customary to have recommendation. I don't know why we have it on items for presentation and discussion, probably just the way the memos have always been, but for action items.
If this is just for resolutions, which is like a roll call.
But resolutions are action items too.
Well, yeah, they
Right.
are, but
So-
not all action items are resolutions.
Correct.
So this is a
Correct.
narrow thing,
Okay.
so,
So what are you asking for?
Well, first off, 2 things.
Approve, are you saying that put back to the word approve or consider?
I don't understand what the upside is to not have recommendations from our highly paid expert.
Whether to vote yay or nay?
It's just a recommendation.
Right.
It's up to us to make a decision. Because we do our homework, we get the recommendation, we go look at other stuff. And so to me, without that, I'm just like kind of putting my finger up in the air and going like, okay, I guess we will or won't do it, because we're not going to hear.
So I guess I suggested this item. I feel like we get a lot of great input from the superintendent. We have great discussions. But my suggestion was that the recommendations not printed where we vote. And I think that the idea is that as representatives of our district, we're attempting to bring in our own values, the values of our community, the superintendent's recommendation, and to have just the superintendent's recommendation next to the item that we're voting, to me feels like I want to clear my head. I want to think of all the people I'm supposed to think about as I make that decision.
Well, you don't have to read it.
So you're saying you want the superintendent's recommendation written out? One way or the other.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting, is that there's not a printed recommendation
That there's
we-
not a print, or you want,
on the docket.
So we don't.
And that varies, that does vary. I talked to different school boards across the state, that varies. Our neighbors do this. It is, a common thing that I've heard about, having the printed recommendation, but that was just my suggestion. It's like when we go vote, there's no one can be outside the voting booth, right? It's just that was the
so you
idea.
just want Scott's recommendation printed.
No, removed.
Not printed.
Removed.
It is printed
That's what, okay.
on the voted items, because, I've said a lot.
No, that's good. I mean, it clarifies.
So the public then would not know what the superintendent thinks about any of the items. We want to make sure the public doesn't know what the superintendent thinks.
I'll say that in a different way. I mean, if I may, what I like about it saying what the superintendent's recommendation is for the people who take the time and read the docket ahead of time, who aren't on the board, or who are reading it as we're all those 5s of people who are watching us on YouTube and following along page after page with the docket, they do see what staff recommendation is presented to us by the superintendent. And then if we do something differently, or we take the discussion in a different way, they understand, we were
Right.
presented with something and then we did something different. So I It's not something that I particularly need to see changed. I understand the request though, but that's my different way of saying what I think you're trying to say. Like, I think there's some value in the public knowing what our staff has brought to us, what our staff recommends, and then following along to see what we do with it.
What's the benefit? Like, what are you seeing as the benefit of not having that printed?
That at the actual moment of voting, because there's a lot of feedback that we received before, the actual moment of voting, I get to take a minute where I don't see what anybody else, I don't, how they want me to vote. And I can think of, okay, what's the community? How do I feel about this? What has the superintendent said about it? It's like a moment of clarity when you're actually voting. So that was my point. I'm not saying that we don't ask the superintendent what he thinks. We don't, maybe even in Friday updates, we might see stuff, other places we might, but in that actual docket where it says, this is the item and it's an action item, and I know I'm going to vote on it, that there's not a recommendation printed next to it. That was my only thought. And I can go either way. Like I said, across the state, I've seen boards that have this, I've seen boards that don't. I'm open to it, but I wanted to make this suggestion.
So the boards that don't have a recommendation, what about the staff report? Does it have consider?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and in other places,
Okay, so
it
if they-
sounds great,
Uh-huh.
but I'm just talking about on the docket next to the item as we vote. That's all I'm talking about.
But keep the consider
Sure.
at the top line. Yeah, I can see it to where it's worded that we're gonna vote yes, no matter what, when the public reads a docket or reads the agenda. And I know we had wording before and that's been changed a long time ago. But I just don't want it to say that we have to vote for it with so many words. I like the word consider. I think consider is great on the top, and I see what you're saying at the bottom for the recommendation.
Yeah, that's the part I'm talking about.
So at the top, I mean, I'm looking ahead at an action item for tonight. So the topic is consider approval of X, that's the topic. And then at the bottom, recommended action, it's to approve X. And so Ted, you're saying you're comfortable with the recommendation, the recommended action that the board takes. The recommendation is just that we consider it.
Right, and that's the heading to in the staff report.
Oh, just take.
It's interesting though, because then again, the public, I mean, I don't want to like dig in too deep on this. I don't have to go on this hill, but it's interesting, right? Because then again, public reading it, like they're reading the docket and the topic is considering it and the recommendation is consider it. I mean, I see where you're
Know that
coming
there's
from.
no recommendation.
I think the idea on the table is to remove that part.
Well, you just take the word recommendation out and said,
Yeah,
you know,
that's part of it.
superintendent can, consider this point of view from the superintendent.
No,
Does-
yeah, the
does
topic
the
is
staff-
considered.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I thought you were saying that
Because
because recommendation,
just
just take that
Stop
out.
there,
completely.
yeah.
And then,
Is there a value to having the staff and the community being able to read this and then also being able to see what Scott's thinking? Or what the school I see what you're saying, and I definitely see the value into it, and I think considers in there too. But I was just looking at it from a different perspective, outside of our box. If some of the staff or community out there wants to just go through the docket and they can see this item that might reflect on them or that they're interested in, and then they can get Scott's viewpoint on it to see, is there value to that, to them having some knowledge of where Scott's thinking lies and what Scott's ideas, representing the school district, to be able to see that, to understand Scott's viewpoint, or is it just the board?
So on that, it hasn't happened recently, but Bill probably remembers that in the docket action item, it was stated to where the board already knew how they were going to vote. And so, I mean, the school closure, whatever, how it was worded is that, okay, we already know how we're going to vote. I think recommended and consider is okay. So basically just said, Oh, yes. Okay.
I don't have a problem with that because the agenda serves two, it's a tool for two groups of people. It's ours for how we organize and run our meeting, but it also, we're, advertising to the public. This item is on here and this is what the thinking is from our superintendent. If you don't like that, come on in.
Right, so,
So it's, we're advertising what we're doing. And when we say, we put the agenda item out there and this is on the agenda for action.
right, and if they don't show up afterwards, they say, well, I didn't think you guys would do that. I can see that.
Or they show up because they say, we don't want you to do
Right.
that.
Right, yeah, they have an opinion,
Right.
and, right. But then
We've
again, I
never
guess,
really been faced though with something the superintendent doesn't support.
Well, and that's where I can see it both ways, to be quite honest. In this room, I hear that point, right? Like, why would I put something on the agenda?
Yeah.
That like, I want you to vote against this, right? So in this little world, we understand that. If I wasn't an educator, I don't think I would go to a lot of board meetings, sorry, right? But if I tuned in occasionally, I wouldn't know that. I would think these are items. I don't know if it's always, I wouldn't automatically conclude that it's always the superintendent who's recommending those. So for the public, I think there's clarity to say, not only is this item on the table, the superintendent thinks it's a good idea.
right,
And so-
and that could also help sway, I don't mean to
Right.
interrupt, and I apologize, but that could help sway some of those people on the fence and be like, well, gosh, if Scott thinks it's a good idea, maybe that's, I'm interested in hearing your recommendation.
The other thing that does not happen often, but certainly there is a process where other people can ask to have an item agendized. And the board president and the superintendent can look and say, this is within our subject purview. This is something that can be brought to the board. And we can choose to agendize. And like, for example, a person may approach us wanting us to approve a resolution. And it falls within our purview and it's something that we should take into consideration. It might also be something the superintendent doesn't recommend for some reason. I mean,
Really?
That's what I was thinking that too, is that, maybe we'll bring something forward that Scott doesn't really approve of, like, Pepsi and the drinking fountain. He wants Coca-Cola, so I mean, just, yeah, try to, no, it's done.
We get co-op for that?
So my thing is, does it make it easier for the public to understand what we're doing? So that's that whole transparency in government thing.
Well, there's a good discussion.
And then there's a little box down here that says no. And then,
That was my attempt to explain the rationale for putting it on, why it was put on the table.
oh, okay.
That's not to be included in the document. That's like one of those notes that just, that'll be removed when we publish it. That was a note for you all.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't think I agree that you don't put stuff on there, you don't want to.
That was a rationale.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of common ground or something that we consider that might, if we do keep the superintendent's recommendation, that kind of weave in, I don't know, a reminder that of course, we have recommendations, but our decisions are made after considering input from the community and staff and, our own thought process. Is that something that
That's a thoughtful
might
idea.
be?
And this again, it's just for resolution, so the normal action discussion stuff it won't apply.
And I appreciate you keeping us on what the item is.
Yeah.
If I may say, I think it was an idea down the road to perhaps for other action items, or am I wrong about that?
Just that it's in,
Isn't it only printed on action items or am I wrong?
No,
But just
but the item in the handbook is just for resolutions. I think your idea was to extend it to other action items down the road.
I wasn't thinking of the future, but.
Oh, just resolutions then.
Actions.
so just the little category box that it's like in the table in the governance
But
handbook.
yes, am I wrong that that's an action item, a
Well,
resolution?
Right,
resolutions
so
are
there
an
it
action
is.
item.
Do you want this only to be for resolutions or for every action item, right? Resolutions are like, hereby we pronounce blah, blah, blah.
How
But
did you
an
say
action
so?
item in terms of like.
Every
what you
resolution
agree
is an
on a
action
contract.
item, but not every
Right.
action item.
Right.
is a
So then I
resolution.
was confused. I guess I thought we were talking about action items.
And the handbook is specifically resolutions.
Yeah, you're
I had
right.
gotten the sense
I
that
missed
perhaps you
that.
wanted to extend it one day to action items in general.
I mean, that wasn't the plan. I was
Oh,
confused.
okay, so
but
just
that-
resolutions.
No, I was thinking action items, but I was confused at what that
was in the handbook.
that it was in the thing, yeah.
Got it.
No,
Okay.
so. Is there a benefit to having it just be resolutions versus also?
It's just
It
what was
just-
in the handbook.
Yeah, that's
So I think where this discussion goes here,
Mhm.
maybe down the road,
I
if
see-
a
yeah,
change
I
was
see what you're talking about.
necessitated, we would consider on an action item.
Well, if we're leaning towards the public is opening up our dockets and reading through all the pages and we think that recommended action benefits them. I like Amanda's idea of having some wording around just, something about that, like Ted was saying, that it's not just, this is how we're voting because we're only listening to one person, that we are taking in these other avenues of input. So I'm open to that idea if that's where everyone's headed.
And now we're kind of getting more into like maybe what our agenda looks like, but would it be, something that maybe under the header of action items, just kind of some type of statement about
Oh,
how
I
the
see.
board considers things, and we don't even have to get into
Mhm.
all of this, but in general, are we all in consensus on the idea of trying to add some language that makes it clear that
The board
we
considers all
we want the
ideas,
recommendation from the
however-
superintendent.
Right, so the board
Yeah.
considers all ideas, however, we appreciate the superintendent's recommendation of,
I
I don't know.
prefer like a list that it's, we considered the community, our own values, because we were voted in, right?
Yeah.
So our own values, the superintendent's recommendation.
we welcome. Opinions and ideas from our community. The recommendation from the superintendent is. Or something,
Yeah, is it okay if do we get do you feel like we get the general idea? Do you want us to talk about it a little more and?
So I guess twofold.
Mhm.
One, I'm thinking of precise language to add in the handbook. So when I bring it back to you next time,
Okay,
it doesn't get a dreaded third reading.
okay,
So if there's handbook language you want me to add, please help me
okay,
with the precision of that.
okay.
Because I don't have that. I have a general idea to add more thinking so that people don't think you're just acting on the superintendent's recommendation. So I get the spirit of that, but I don't have like the language to add in the
I
handbook.
almost need a mock staff report to see what it's gonna look like.
the board
Um,
considers.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's a lot of,
The board considers opinions from the community. We welcome all ideas. Our superintendent's recommendation is. Is that, I don't know, maybe something like that, so we know we're trying to be inclusive. And we want opinion from our community,
I mean, I wonder if there's even a board bylaw that goes right in there in terms of considering, there probably is something already with perfect language that we do not have our fingers on right now.
This is part of the bylaws.
Correct. But just thinking in terms of, reading back to our policies and bylaws, when we're talking about public communications, et cetera, there probably actually already is some perfect language around how we value and we're taking in input and making decisions, not just based on.
And are
one
we good with the
recommendation.
outcome?
Yes, I'm not putting perfect language down right now. Like, but I'm gonna look back at, looking forward to,
And so let me ask you, can I ask you a question, Scott? So if I were to ask you for a recommendation, would you send me one?
Depends on what it was and if it was gonna be a board item.
It's a,
And
Agenda.
I would be concerned about Brown Act if I was just sending it to one board member.
well, I
Is that
mean,
what
if
you're
I
asking
asked
me?
for it, you'd have to send it out to everybody, but.
Yes, okay, I'll
Okay.
make sure it wasn't. a trick
Is there
question.
some reason why you would say, no, I'd never do that?
No,
Okay.
on an action item underneath the section that says recommended action, which contains our superintendent and superintendent's recommendation. Would it be appropriate to have a sentence saying the board considers the superintendent's recommendation as well as input from the community, staff, and our own
Personal values.
values
Or,
and experiences when
yes.
taking action or when.
yeah,
Is that? Am I getting close?
I have the board considers the superintendent recommendation as well as the.
Input from the community. Other staff, I mean, obviously. Is that, the community,
Yeah, I don't. know
yeah,
about
just
other
general,
staff.
yeah, we're getting
I don't
to.
think that would be a good.
Right,
yeah.
that's gonna come out right. Yeah,
But from community.
Yeah.
And their own values, I think you said,
Mhm.
them, as well as their own value, and their own values.
Yeah. just the idea that we were voted in.
I love that language. I will include it. I do whatever the board tells me to do. A suggestion, though, is at the bottom of page 3 of the handbook, page 35 of the docket. The last bullet under effective governance teams says, effective governance teams ensure opportunities for the diverse range of views in the community to inform board deliberations. So I don't know, that kind of is hitting
that
it
is
for me.
really hitting.
I don't know if
it,
that's hitting it for you.
Let's
Which
see,
one was that?
Page 3 of the handbook, page 35 of the docket, the last bullet. Effective governance teams ensure opportunities for the diverse range of views in the community to inform board deliberations.
Yeah.
Since it previously exists, feels like
Mhm.
not reinventing the wheel a little bit.
Yeah.
We could just add that as a separate, I'm thinking of the memos. So before it gets to recommend, or when it gets to recommendations, to just add that in addition to what it currently says. The superintendent recommends blah. And, no,
the board considers the recommendation,
Yeah,
input. And input from the community.
As well as the board members' personal values.
To ensure. I-
That's just period.
yeah, no, I like
Well-
what Amanda's doing, I think that makes more sense next to us. Superintendent's recommendation.
I mean, yeah, we're doubling up, it is in here.
okay,
Um,
sorry, I think I distracted us.
no, it's good, I mean, because you're highlighting that this is a key part of our values already, is we're ensuring opportunities to hear all of the voices, and and you're bringing to our attention that you want that to be reflected along with recommendations.
Yeah.
And I think there is a sweet spot there. It's just hard wordsmithing on the on the spot.
So if it was under recommended action. While the board ensures opportunities for the diverse range of the community, the superintendent recommends X.
I liked where we were going before.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, you read it to me then. What am I writing down?
Have it right here, what was Amanda was saying.
Well,
Okay,
The board considers the,
the board considers the superintendent's recommendation.
in addition to,
Input. From the public,
for the community.
the community.
will you write it down too, Jen, so I have somebody to cross-reference this? I don't want to mess this one up. The board considers the superintendent's recommendation in addition to
Input from the community.
input from the community.
I could take it or leave it as far as our own personal values. To me, I feel like that's a given, but
Okay,
is that okay?
that's fine with me.
Or,
Leave it.
when taking action,
Taking action.
Well, this is under resolution, so it is ready to action.
okay. Is it okay? I mean, this sounds like a pretty clean sentence that represents what we do.
That's a living.
As something that kind of just lives
Yeah.
potentially in memos for action, just making it clear for those who do follow along and read every word of every page. That we take the recommendations. I hold the recommendations, very highly. They're very important. That's informing what we're doing, but we're also making sure it's clear before taking action that we are taking in public input. Is that?
Yeah, I think what you just said was short and sweet.
Yeah.
I think it
Miss-
sounded good.
And this would come under, so for example, on page 71 of the docket, there is an action memo.
I know.
If
Page
I-
71, kids.
If I'm understanding correctly,
Oh, it's fine.
under recommended action, it would be this sentence followed by the sentence that's on there now.
Either way, I mean, you could say the superintendent, or, right. It could be either, the recommended action is we approve X, Y, Z, and then just it could be a footer on every action item.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it can go underneath, right?
Oh,
That's
okay.
what I'm trying to say.
That's,
is if-
that's really helpful. I was not envisioning.
A
that.
boilerplate statement.
I mean, but it would be, because the recommended action is always at the bottom, so it could be just embedded in the template.
Yeah,
But then that way, as we're voting and we're looking right there, it's like, hello, reminder, right? Is that okay? We okay with
Works for me.
that?
So on that page 71, it would look exactly like it does now. Except at the very bottom, it would have this new statement.
yes.
And in the regular, like the attachment, we usually do really small font. This would be in the normal size font.
Yes, please.
Normal size, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
And we would see it on the agenda too, right?
Tell me, right now, my understanding is on the
I
bottom of
mean-
every action memo.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Right.
just feels like then it's gonna be like, On every single-
Because we have statements. Kind of in the middle with the public. Members of the audience are welcome to address
I thought you meant the listing it under every,
action item.
yeah, I mean, if there's a place where we could just. Consider putting it underneath, putting like,
Well, what about, how the opening procedures for open session, and there's a little blurb. It's a blurb on the,
so like on
Document.
tonight's agenda where it says number 9 action items and there's the
There'd be
text
a
box
blurb.
that says action items, there's that same sentence in italic.
In addition to every memo, every action memo? No,
oh,
You tell me, do you want it to be here or are you fine with it being just here on the front of the docket or?
oh,
so right under that, the new idea is
Okay,
right
no,
under the box
your
that
idea.
says.
Back,
number
okay,
yeah,
yeah,
your
just
idea,
back to the memos.
backtrack,
nine.
Okay, we're good.
I'm gonna read it one more time to
Thank you,
make sure I have it right. Yes. The board considers the superintendent's recommendation in addition to input from the community when taking action.
Yeah.
Concise and
Yeah.
thoughtful.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. And then maybe just a little cleanup on the. Going back to page 6 of the governance handbook, 38 of the docket.
Meeting.
We
management.
will not delete then what's in green because we are still going to hear the recommendations of the superintendent. I don't think we need to, personally, I don't think we need to change anything in the handbook about what we've just discussed. I could be wrong, but I mean, it says here, board makes decisions only after all available facts have been presented and discussed. Like, I feel like we kind of got out of the handbook, but more into the
Oh,
docket.
yeah.
Is that,
yeah,
Which is-
yes,
okay?
it's what it's, yeah.
So are you okay with
That's
not
fine.
making a
I
change to
mean,
the
they put the
handbook?
blurb in there that we're gonna use, just as, this is what we're gonna use.
Okay, I don't care. I'll be honest, that might be difference to me.
Already, so.
Yeah,
I'll have-
I think, but we talked about, Scott raised the point that on page 35, there is that statement in there that we're, that we obviously are ensuring opportunities for the range of views of the community to inform our deliberations. So. Someone just tell me if you want this to be captured in the handbook, that this is something that we're doing, or if instead we more just kind of veered into, here's something we're doing to change our docket? In the handbook or no? Because
Well, I mean, unless anyone's against it, it doesn't hurt to add it.
do we have a better section for it? Like where's the section on action items and where we, we have. This was where this idea was born,
Well, that's meeting, you mean meeting management?
meeting
Page-
management.
Page 6. That's where that's. coming from.
Yeah, so that's. Are we gonna talk about that one? Are we done with
Yeah.
the other one?
Well, I'm just thinking,
Meeting management, there's something there.
so under meeting management at the first sentence. All persons are treated fairly and equally and the multiple voices of the community are heard. Would it make sense to
Yes.
put that, to add that sentence there?
Yeah,
The board takes action after hearing the recommendation of the superintendent,
What
et
page is that
cetera. I'm
again?
sorry, Scott, we're going so fast. Page 6,
Page 6,
meeting management. So underneath our green, the
okay.
very next
Oh, okay,
sentence.
same thing.
Yeah, so we're gonna keep the green as is,
Yeah.
not make any changes there, but under meeting management. After it says multiple voices of the community are heard.
Mhm.
I think it fits to just to add that
yeah,
sentence
I think
there.
so.
Easy peasy. Let's try.
Okay, guys, okay. Looks like coming right below that, then moving along, step 5 under meeting management, I see that we've got in red, the strikeout.
Yeah,
I think
that's,
that was a
Discusses and
mistake.
votes.
yeah, when are we gonna discuss?
So that's not what you asked for?
Oh, okay.
Because you changed, I was thinking just change step 2 to board discusses and asks clarifying questions. If the problem was having discusses and votes. Because once you call for a vote or,
I think that actually comes up in case we call for a motion and we have to discuss it further. So someone says, well, I actually move that we adopt Y instead of X, and then
So
we have to have a new discussion. Sorry, I think it's a
that's
mistake.
typo.
I think it's a
oh,
mistake.
sorry,
I
okay.
misunderstood,
Okay.
Kelly. I'll have to go back in the email.
Because the
Try to-
thing
try to
too is
understand
that you
where
have
my
the public
mistake was.
comments and then.
Did you want step?
I'll touch base with you.
After Public comments.
Okay. My apologies.
No, it's okay. Just
No
to clarify.
discussion, just vote.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're ready to
Yeah,
roll on down to the next one.
Are we done with this one?
we're leaving.
Oh, I'm
it.
sorry, we're
leaving it.
we're
It's a
leaving it.
typo.
I misunderstand Kelly's request.
But there's, okay, that's great, but we have recent experience that where we should add another step 1, and that is. Should the item be tabled?
Okay,
We've had that twice now in the last month. And then there's discussion around that.
mhm.
Is it presentation of information? Is that occurring or is the item called up and then we talk about tabling it?
So the item comes up and then we have. Made up a process where we go, well, should we act on this because somebody's missing, or should we just wait? And so, well, let's just wait.
So would that replace step 4?
No, that would be step 1.
Yeah,
And
but
then after that, if we decide to move forward, then we start the presentation of information. But first you have to decide whether or not you're going to even do it or.
I was gonna say, taking it back to the kind of intent around this step, these procedures, it's talking about how we manage public input process.
Is it? I
Yeah, the
thought it
board
was-
president will manage public input process on action items according to the following steps.
Oh,
So I kind of feel like rather than kind of the like Robert's rules type stuff, the other Robert said. Like I thought the spirit behind this was just making sure, hey, we are clearly laying out the steps along with our reminder cards of making sure we have our discussion and then bring it to the public.
so if I'm hearing what you're saying, right, that these 6 steps only apply to public input. Not to our actually how we do the meeting.
It is how we do the meeting. It's how we manage public input. So I guess I'm not understanding the need to like codify or, place a step on tabling something,
So
but
we would have to ask the public for their input on whether we should table something. Why would
I
we
don't
ask-
think so.
Because that's what this item is about.
Well, like this item we tabled it because Callie wasn't here.
Right.
And that
And we
was
did
right-
it when you were here.
And that was right off the bat, yeah.
Yeah,
So this is a finely focused to just public input process.
it's how do we manage meetings? So how do we, when we are considering something, right? So I guess my argument is, because here I am arguing now, my thought is we're not having a discussion on something if we table it.
But how do we table something? So we kind of made it up.
Right. I hear you.
And so as far as managing a meeting, that was kind of, you know. Impromptu,
You're telling me to go read Robert's Rules of Order. I know.
yeah.
I know.
Perhaps though, this would be its own bullet or its own comment. It would not be one of the steps. I mean, it's kind of infrequent that we table things.
Yeah, but we,
So
like I said,
as
did it twice
as a
now.
Comment in maybe the paragraph there. If needed. An item can be tabled after it's.
But how do you table? That's what I'm saying is like meeting management.
Any board member could suggest tabling it and then the board would vote on
So is that,
to
Just
table
be a
it.
that's the legal way?
We'll have to, honestly,
Yeah.
I don't know on the spot.
I don't know what
And-
the
and-
code says.
Right, well, and so if it's okay with you, what if we look at that and see
Yeah.
what the correct procedure is?
Right.
And certainly I think, you know, Scott or I can quickly pull that from Robert's rules and we can throw it in for our next round, if that's okay, because I don't want to guess. It's important, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right, and we can find a place just to say, you know, if an item needs to be tabled, here's the procedure. And I don't mind doing a little research,
Oh, yeah,
sorry.
I
we're
like
just-
No,
But-
I just wanted to make sure I understood the question. Yeah,
It's how do we get it right when we're tabling, which I hear you.
That's so absolutely, you know, going down to the grand jury is no fun.
All right. Thank you. Anything else on this item?
I've seen, yeah, agendas or a presentation where they table an item.
Mhm.
Or strike an item. From the agenda, it was as that it was approved. But then there's other instances where an item comes forward. And then during the discussion, it gets a motion is made to table the action item.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
my
possible too.
2 cents, I'll full transparency, I do not know the precise rule on Robert's Rules of Order.
I'm actually
My
trying to look it up.
Isn't
understanding,
it really exciting?
my understanding.
I
has
know
always
on
been
Robert's
that-
rules, I'm like, what? And
You gotta buy
then,
the book.
yeah, exactly.
all right,
It's
yeah.
interesting. No,
All right, bring it back. Circling back.
You know what? Let's table this.
What if we just say, can we stick a pin in it or whatever, and
Yeah, there you
that gets us
Yeah.
around it.
But we do.
It's a good idea, Phil, and I think, you know, if we can agree that we'll look it up and see what's appropriate to stick in, you know, right underneath meeting management or near meeting management, that seems to be the right place in our handbook. But then it's there in the handbook for the next time it comes up.
Mhm.
Works for me. Keeping us on track. I think the next one is something that I had suggested on page 7 under meeting management. I remember when we worked on this item originally. And there was this optional statement that the board president can read prior to community input. And I don't know that I've ever heard a board president read it. I've never read it in my terms as president. And it's just not the language that in kind of the spirit of how we address our community. So I propose taking that out and instead adding, you know, the board president may make a statement prior to public comment to ensure that community members understand the comment process and are warmly welcomed and encouraged to participate in our democratic process.
I really like it. I think it has a great spirit to it.
Is that where the superintendent, isn't there another section in here where it says the superintendent? Maybe that's under.
This is about, this is
recall
just removing, again, kind of some outdated suggested language around what you can say prior to public input. And I think it's about kind of meeting
think it's
management
fine,
and
don't get me
potentially
wrong, yeah.
managing like
Yeah.
difficult times, challenging circumstances, and really like trying to get across. Doesn't matter if the room is packed and folks, you know, are so excited to talk to us, and it might feel like a tense moment, like everyone is warmly welcomed and thanked for their contribution and democracy.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Could we consider adding that scratched out statement to the form, the public comment form, so that people do know that, you know, they're at risk if they go too far?
I'm not particularly comfortable with that.
Did
I
you-
almost feel like it's us potentially trying to give somebody legal advice. I feel like people should just
Yeah.
assume the
Like-
risk of
when
their
you
own
say
words.
libel, you're
Yeah.
at risk of libel, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that, right?
Yeah, I
Like-
agree with that.
And that's not warmly, that's
It's
not warm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think if someone, you're assuming the risk if you show up and say something that another person could potentially sue you for,
and we recognize all viewpoints. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's the
And-
point of being
Yeah.
inclusive.
And we'd be directly involved because we have the evidence taped.
There you go.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. These were all things prior to being on the YouTube.
Yeah, no,
All
I
right.
think it's very inviting.
Yeah, I really.
I like that.
like it.
Thank you. All right, we're okay to move on then. Keep scrolling. Okay.
Now, have we heard from people who said this statement is uninviting?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I looked at it and I thought, we've never actually used the statement. This
No.
was something that we had
Yeah.
oh my gosh, what's it called? The person from CSBA who came in and led us in a workshop however many years ago. That was something that person suggested and we all said, okay, sounds all right. And then I just don't think it's us.
Yeah,
And honestly, I like updating our speech.
Yeah.
To where we are currently, in the board with 2023,
Mhm.
And I think we need to get less away from, making it not inviting, you could be prosecuted if you come here and say the wrong thing.
I think, again, people can figure that out on their own, right?
Mhm.
All right, thank you, guys. To me, it looks like the next one is on page 9. I'm sorry, you were reading this and then I just.
No, I passed the.
Trying to put us together.
Yep.
Okay. This is a new section, right? Leadership within the board and election of officers, and I think we have a couple of different
Yep.
versions.
Digital version and then an updated version on paper. Post suggestions on the table.
Anyone have a short version of the difference between the two, or? do we just-
so I suggested that we add these two topics.
Mhm.
I wrote the paper copy. I guess I feel like I really like this document because it kind of has a spirit to it. And I tried to bring that kind of feeling to what does it mean to be a trustee in election of officers and committee appointments. I think with election of officers, just the idea that we're all contributing to the board functioning properly. Anybody can step up to serve. And we rotate leadership because we're interested in having the different voices be leaders. We're interested in that concept of democracy. So I tried to get at the spirit of that. And then there's just some details in there. If we just want to maybe start with one of them.
I read it, I love it.
Okay.
I mean, I think you never want to get comfortable.
Yeah.
You always want to be a little uncomfortable in order to observe, create change.
Do we need to add in the clerk?
Sure.
Well, we appreciate you serving as clerk every year. I think we want to, because we do elect the officer of clerk.
Okay.
Question, so what is the rotational approach idea? We abandoned that long
So
ago.
then that's off the table. I was just trying to capture kind of what
Okay,
was used and kind of the hybrid approach. So,
yeah, so I would just take all of it.
well, look at the paper copy. I think
Yeah.
the paper copy is the idea on
Yeah.
the table.
Yeah. I think I
Tradition. Yeah, see, traditionally, we haven't been doing that, so I would take that out. I mean, how long have you been here, Scott? Is that 8 years now?
That's my 8th year,
And have I ever been president?
Good
No.
question.
So the whole rotational, traditional thing, that we don't do that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I was taking that on.
What if, on the paper copy, traditionally, the vice president is considered first to fill the role of president when their term is up. I think we should leave ourselves open to nominating another trustee, like,
Sure.
right? So,
Sure.
so crossing out if they're not interested, we would certainly always hope that a vice president would be interested in the, but.
You just won.
Right.
So then-
You want an option to get out.
Oh, I will.
down to 2
Oh,
years.
did you
Right,
see
I know.
board bylaw 9100? I may have asked to have that inserted. So, yeah, that's.
Amanda has the.
Yeah, no, but just again, opening us up, we may very well, for example, Carolyn was a wonderful vice president who I think served 2 terms as vice president and did not want to take the presidency. And so it's just fair to say we're open to other things.
So I'd like to propose that we cross that line. Traditionally, the vice president is considered first for the role of president when their term is up. If they're not interested, we cut that and the sentences. Actually cut a nomination. Any trustee can be considered.
There we go.
Yeah,
Instead of, rotation.
yeah.
Good, all right, that's good.
All right, that works for me.
Okay, and then next committee appointment, or we're good with that? Yeah, committee appointments. So again, I was just trying to get at the spirit of, committee appointments they're a time where we might be, in a room, full of teachers and staff. I guess my experience with the Racial Justice Task Force made me realize like, wow, this is like a intimate experience. We're sharing personal things. We're talking about really big issues. So just to remember that the reason I'm in that room is because I'm a trustee. So how do I bring that that idea of the trustee to the meeting where I'm interacting with those people, but also in that just remembering our role here of why we're in that committee meeting.
I like it, but I think there should be a bullet in the roles section.
What?
The roles, ROLES section. The one at the bullets at the top where, no, at the page
Page
31 or something.
Page 3 of the handbook.
Yeah, there you go.
Robert's
35 of
rules.
the doc.
Yeah,
No, our roles.
No.
So the
effective trustees. No.
Yeah, so it says, let's see, the governance roles, effective trustees, page 3 on this thing.
Mhm.
So we have all those bullets there. So one of them was to go to district events. You have another is participate in professional development, advocacy, and work being on committees. So that way it's right up there near the top of our long write-up.
You're saying in addition to what is.
Well, no,
put
I think it's a
forward.
role, it's not a structure of thing.
I think
So
it's-
It's not a board structure thing. It's the board members going on their own out to doing, committee work. So it's not the structure of a board. So it's a role of a board member to get involved.
Oh, I feel like we're assigned committees and we go to those meetings.
Well, you
Yes.
volunteer to go. You're not assigned.
I don't know if those are part of the actual job duties. I think those are. I see where both of you guys are saying,
Are they?
about 2 cents. I'm honestly, I'm not 100% sure.
Are they what?
Yeah,
What?
are the
we
committee,
required?
are those required of us?
Board member? No.
Right.
But I think they're under the idea of what a effective trustee does.
I thought,
Oh, okay.
So I mean, I could see a space for it in both places, and I
Yeah.
don't think there's any harm in having it in both places. So
Sure.
effective trustees,
But that's the
Sir-
idea on here. It says board members are encouraged, not required. To
Well,
participate in district.
we're encouraged to be effective, but we're all. I mean,
Yeah, no, yeah, we're not required to be effective.
we,
Oh, no.
I remember it written down, maybe it was previous,
previous version.
previous version that we were required to be on a committee. Maybe that was removed and then this is
I like the wording of encouraged better than
Yeah,
required for
right.
sure, because that's not a,
And then no matter what we decide on, could we have I don't know if we can put it in here, but a report out for people who go to these things?
I mean, we could do an agenda item or something like that.
Well, it's just during the board, your individual presentations or something.
Like they did tonight.
We do.
with
Like for the
KLC.
leadership committee thing?
Yeah.
So. You guys met, it was okay, but. I had no idea what you talked about.
Well, that's because it wasn't a substantive, like, a meeting. It was our first
Meet and
time
greet.
in person. It was a meet and greet at Gales.
Uh-huh.
So there
Okay.
wasn't, it was like a, so.
But I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just using that.
Okay.
So I do agree with Phil, because I was interested to hear what's going on at Jade Park and
Yeah.
Monterey Park, and how that's including. Yeah, obviously, one of our big topics right now is the fields and how to access both and make this grand thing. And of course, I don't know idea. I'm guessing I probably didn't say, let's do this or.
No,
you know,
we would
right,
not.
but I think that's where our interest would lie, because I don't know what you guys talked about. And if
Yeah.
you did talk about that, that'd be a huge, awesome topic to talk to us about.
Got it.
And then the chamber, like, how did we do at the Art and Wine Festival? You know, like, were we the biggest ticket seller yet? Or-
Oh, I don't know if they give us
I
that
guess we
feedback.
go to-
That's,
we go to
Yes.
those meetings every
We
month,
were.
right?
but
So
if,
yeah, just to come back, so are we leaning towards having committee appointments be as it's kind of typed out, or are we talking about scrapping that and making it a single bullet point in what effective trustees do? Where are we leaning?
I like to see it in both places. The ink is cheap, you know?
yeah,
Both places? Is there a preference? What do people think?
I think right here is just fine.
I mean, I think-
Okay, so it's not a role. All right.
I don't have a.
no, it's not that it isn't a role. I mean, it is,
Well,
it's advocating for public education. It's,
Okay.
it's, it's committing time and energy necessary to be an informed and effective leader. I mean, it's woven in, but if we want to add it as, effective trustees, serve serve as representatives of the board on important committees.
Yeah, I was thinking either or.
Okay,
Do we have a
My-
a preference?
Is there, so why does it have to be either or? Cover both bases?
I mean, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah.
If that's where people are leaning.
Yeah,
I mean, that's, yeah,
I think it should be added in. Then the more the merrier.
I don't have a
Because
problem with
you-
that personally.
you-
I mean, I think
Yeah.
that is making us effective. We all do sign on to serve on committees. Having that reminder in our handbook might trigger the reminder as we review the handbook, as we do every month. No, but like, oh yeah, let me just check in and see where I am with that, nutrition committee that I'm on, or when is my next meeting? Sure, why not? Yes, sir.
Could an idea on the table be to keep this as is,
Mhm.
as it is on this piece of paper? And put a shorter version under roles, just like effective trustees
Yes, absolutely.
are encouraged to participate in district committees?
I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so when new board members come on, they get handed this thing right off the bat. They see this list at the top,
Yeah.
like, okay, here, I'm signing up for this.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just effective trustees participate in district committees.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
Yeah.
add-
thank
I'll
you.
add That is a bullet.
Thank
point.
you, Scott.
And then
Yeah, I
keep
think-
it
highly
out of the-
desirable.
I think we have a game plan.
Sounds good. I'm looking a little bit at this sentence, second to last line, but, committee meetings are less formal than board meetings. Trustees thoughtfully engage and take to heart that they represent the idea of the board. Does that resonate? Is that okay? I mean,
I
do
guess
we not actually, I mean,
Yeah, so, okay, so here's my thought. I know that's a little strange wording, but I was just kind of going out there. Is that we're not actually representing the board in what the board thinks.
Mhm.
We're one member, but we are representing the idea that we take in input, we carry ourselves with dignity,
Mhm.
we're respectful to people. So it was the idea, that was how I was getting at that phrasing. That was my thought.
okay.
But if it's awkward, I'm very happy to change it.
It's an opportunity too for other staff members to hear what a board member is thinking about the topic. And so that way stakeholders can make adjustments. Like, oh, you need to learn more about this, or is that true? That kind of stuff. So that whole information transfer thing happens better when you're like in a group.
Do you have a suggestion?
I'm thinking on that.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
thinking, thank you. I'm just wondering. To me, the idea of the board is like a little nebulous, like they take the heart that they they're acting as a member of the board, or that they are
Sure.
serving as a
Sure.
member
That works.
of the board.
Right.
Is that
Sure.
okay? Serving as a member of the board as opposed to representing the idea of the board.
Sure.
I mean, it's something I've really had to take in mind at like the Racial Justice Task Force,
Yeah.
realizing like, okay, like as much as, wow, I would love to contribute my thoughts and ideas to what this subcommittee group is doing, but
Yes.
I am here to stand back, take in,
Yes.
less talking, more listening.
That was,
80-20 rule.
that was exactly why I
Okay.
brought this topic up.
Okay,
Yes.
To
Me
take
going
to
with
heart,
this.
they represent.
that they serve the committee as a member of the board.
Sure.
Or serve on the committee.
We're crossing off represent the idea of the board and adding. Take to heart that they serve. I'm sorry, one more time.
They serve on the committee as a member of the board.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience with
Yeah.
all of
Yeah,
our,
thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you all
I want to
too.
get it just right.
Yeah. I hope this, all the deliberation and discussion shows how seriously we all take our work. I think it does. It does.
100%.
I can't imagine how hard it was for you guys to put the first one together.
Right, I know. And I still brag about it with folks from other boards who don't have one. I'm like, take a look at ours, SUSD.org/org, because we've really got a tight one. I think that was it. I don't think we changed anything in the appendix. No. Okay, so it sounds like we've got something ready to come back and visit next time. Awesome. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for the info.
Thank you. Okay, on to some policy items. Next up is discussion on 5131.9 academic honesty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I bring this to you as a first reading of the revised board policy 5131.9 academic honesty. It is quite an old board policy, as you can see before the revision was made. And it did not include a number of things that have happened in our lives during that time, inclusive of our attention to students in special education, technology, and artificial intelligences. So CSBA has made the following recommendations, given the rationale that this the section that's included does address the prohibited and permitted use of technology through the lens of academic honesty, including artificial intelligence, which is, as you know, an ever evolving conversation in the educational world. It also relates to this policy also describes that students with disabilities be permitted to use technology that may not be afforded to others if it's under their individualized education plan. And I really like that addition because that really that's something that's long since been missing. The last part of this really is the part that we will take a look at procedurally in our district. And one is that if a staff member finds a student to be academically dishonest through the use of technology, that staff member needs to be really transparent with the family and the child about how they acquired that information. And I'll just give a practical example. So we have a few technologies that we use to monitor students' words in terms that they use when they're communicating with one another when using a device. That's not academic dishonesty. That's for us to see if students are well. And so that's really kind of a fine line. If we find that a student is like plagiarized a document, that's something that we would share openly with, you know, the student and the parent. So those are just kind of some different things, which leads into the last part, which is you have to educate your staff in what this actually means and how to address it. And so that's the part that we'll kind of build some procedures around what happens when, you know, or if you find that a child is used academic dishonesty or employed academic dishonesty in a product that they've created, and how that's different from if you collect information about a student who may be talking about self-harm or harm or those kinds of different ways of handling it. So I like this policy. It's much outdated, but I think some good additions have been made. Any questions?
So no more copying the encyclopedia, word by
No,
word,
no chance. No chance here.
What's an encyclopedia?
Yeah.
Well,
I think
no,
the other.
yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I think you're right, it is
Policy.
outdated.
Yeah.
100%.
So this is kind of coming to me now, and I'm sorry, I didn't send anybody a question ahead of time, but I was just thinking about AI use and how our plagiarism policy is designed to teach students kind of what's acceptable and what's not. And definitely that's totally a new topic. It's up to teachers probably, how, if they're using, if they're not, but just that concept of, I just found this online, using AI generated content as their own work is considered plagiarism and that will be tolerated. I'd like to maybe for us to consider saying something about that, because AI can look like the student's work.
Certainly. I mean, it is a very big topic of conversation in the
huge,
education world
I know.
and hard to detect, right?
Yes,
And
hard
so,
to detect. So just that concept of putting it out there that we do consider taking something AI wrote, claiming it as your own work is plagiarism.
Yeah.
I guess that was, yeah.
Yeah, and I think what you hit is like kind of that practical piece. Like as a teacher, how do I know? And if I reasonably suspect, like what's the evidence, right? And those kinds of things, we're in our education discussions are talking about that all the time. Like,
Yeah.
how do you know? Right?
Yeah.
One tool that we have, and we're using obviously many tools in educational systems, but there are tools that our teachers use to determine whether, the word structure sounds correct, or these kinds of, things work. Well, that's also artificial intelligence, right? So like there's ways in which we're employing artificial intelligence to support our teaching and learning process.
Yeah.
But it's that other piece that you're talking about, like when a student hasn't generated any of their own content and it's been generated by something else.
Yeah.
Whether it's another human or it's another piece of technology, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how to get to the bottom of that yet. Nobody in our field
Yeah.
knows how to get to the bottom of that yet. But I do think it's going to be a conversation that will have some impactful results in terms of policy coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know how soon.
Yeah. And like you said, it's just a huge can of worms. I think all I'm suggesting is that we add a sentence that taking AI content and claiming it as your own is considered plagiarism, which that doesn't solve the problem of how do you figure that out? Like, we don't even have to go there, but I just wanted to put forward an idea that we have a sentence in there about just that using that content, claiming it's your own is plagiarism.
I just clicked through and I'm so grateful that we have the links to all of the other policies and bylaws. But I clicked through, I was curious about the very bottom one, 6163.4E, which is student use of technology, because I thought, that's our acceptable use agreement for technology use and internet access. And of course, I was just looking at it pretty quickly, but I think it says pretty clearly, you will not plagiarize works that you find on the internet, taking the ideas or writings of others and presenting them as if they were yours. This is cheating.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a place to
Yeah.
spell it out a little more clearly in one
Yes.
of in like the AR or something like that.
Well, a couple things we could do. One is because this is a new addition to the policy, kind of as recommended language, what we can do, and kind of like what we did with the American Indian, change of wording
yeah.
that we made, right?
Yeah.
We just made a clarification, right?
Yeah.
And so what we can do is we can like put like some parentheses in that basically says such as, and like as referred to in this other board policy. I think that that makes complete sense, and I can definitely bring that back for second reading if the board agrees.
Yeah, I think as long as it's clear that, I mean, we're talking about AI that's not actually given with the teacher's lesson.
Yeah.
There are some teachers, I mean, and I don't know
Yeah.
about quite yet at the middle school level. I definitely saw it at the high school level where students could incorporate AI.
Yeah, I mean,
We're talking about, right,
I think
passing
it-
it off completely as your own.
Yeah.
I think
That's
it
your
goes
own
to
right.
intention,
Gotcha,
right?
I agree.
Is there an educational benefit
Mhm.
through it? So, and that we can spell out in the AR a little bit more, but I like the idea.
All right. Thoughts? Yes.
So we get this magazine from CSBA and they recommended, besides this one, board policy 6154 homework, makeup work, and 6162.5 student assessment. So will we see those coming too?
We just did the most recent CSBA update on homework a couple months ago. That doesn't mean that they don't make new changes rapidly.
Sure.
But we're trying to keep up on them, so you will probably, if there's a recommended, you'll probably see it come through
Okay.
from me.
And so I agree with all of the stuff, but it's just kind of a side discussion. Are we encouraging our instructional staff to teach our students how to use generative AI?
I don't know that there's been any directive to teach it AI. But I would say there is exploration that we know all of our students are doing with AI. Right now, I would say once we get some more direction in terms of like policy associated with it, we'll probably have more to talk about. But I don't feel comfortable directing staff to teach students how to use AI, you know, without knowing myself all the implications of it. So no, I don't see that as
I think the policy just offers some guidance is that the superintendent or designee may provide training to staff regarding the use of technology. So that could fit in there
Okay, close enough.
if
Yeah.
it were, if that's where we're
Down
headed.
the road.
Yeah, down the road.
I think
open.
it definitely is on our.
So, because right now, a prompt engineer's low pay is $60,000 to $80,000, and that's with no experience.
Right.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds like we got some good ideas, good discussion. Any comments from the public? I thank you. No. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We
Did you have
appreciate
anything you wanted to talk about? And maybe we can, so you're not sitting here the whole time? If
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We have the public.
Yeah.
All right, to.
Lifelong
Yeah.
learner.
Yeah, 100%. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have
Yeah.
to say, if you have something you wanted to bring up for a specific topic. Great.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Good night. Nice to meet you, Michael.
Good night.
I apologize too. I think I forgot to ask for public comment after our lengthy about our governance handbook. Did you want to chime in at all about our governance handbook? Okay, I apologize. I was.
If you're gonna give us guidance about AI, please talk to us before you give us guidance.
We didn't have any emails on those, right? No, I got carried away in the discussion of how we conduct a board meeting and I forgot my little cheat sheet there.
Right.
We're good on this one as well. It sounds like we got an idea for coming back and got your comment on AI. Okay, thank you. Thanks for sticking with us under no obligation, but we appreciate you. Rolling on to our next board policy, use of school facilities.
All right, so there is two buckets of changes here. One, some language, very specific, kind of updated, more modern language that CSB has recommended. And then the big content area is making sure that we are set up to be election centers, right? And so we've done that in the past, but this helps bring a little code to it. So those are the two changes. So I'll just go through them. You can see, I tried to go through in order so that it's somewhat easy to follow. But designating, the word designating in number 2, where the number 2 has been changed to including the designation of. So again, just language is important, but just language. Schoolwork has been changed from separated words to a compound word. Later on, there is a section that says the board shall grant. That's been changed to the board authorizes. Bit lower, further down, there's a term not exceeding, and that's been changed to not to exceed. And the final kind of precise language part is eliminating the unnecessary phrase where it says in determining direct costs, that's been changed to just direct costs. And then the section at the bottom in bold and italics is CSB's guidance on using a facility as a polling place. And that's the new addition.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
And of course, we use the PAC, right? And this gives us, I think, the city, I mean, the location and the county elections, it's been great over there. It's been great learning opportunities, great location, mid-county, all that good stuff. So it's working. This just adds a little policy to it.
Great.
Yep.
In the gardens,
Yes,
has been at least
yes,
for a long
that's right.
time. I don't know if
Yep.
that changed with
Yep.
COVID and all, now that
Yeah,
we do
sure.
so much vote by mail. But
Yes.
that traditionally was always really nice, and the school did such a nice job of welcoming the neighbors in to vote. Any questions or comments on this? Seems pretty straightforward. All
Could
right.
this go on consent?
And so Ted's rule is that, yeah, if there's not a lot of discussion about the policy, it automatically goes to consent for the second reading. So short answer, yes.
Any public comment?
Unless you want to pull it.
More polling places? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You can manage.
Yeah.
You'll just on these, you'll just tell me if we get emails, right? So
Yes,
just
I
tell me,
will.
thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. I don't think we're quite there. Okay, if we are ready for the next one, it is our 4030 non-discrimination in employment.
I'll start with a shout out to Sandy Figueroa, who actually did all the work on this one since the personnel item.
Thank you, Sam. She might be watching.
But I get to steal her limelight and present it as my own here. So this is on non-discrimination in employment. And again, trying to think through, what's the purpose on changing this? Again, there's some language items. I didn't get the chance to spell out the language items quite as linearly in a linear fashion as I did on the previous one. But then the big content item here is to add as one of the protective classes, reproductive health, right? And to make sure that that can't be in any way included in hiring practices and be discriminated against. So that's the big topic here, right?
Reproductive health.
Could be any
Decision
number of
making.
things. Decision making, yes. Reproductive decision making in terms of what you use for contraceptives and what's your
Oh.
view on
Mhm.
issues like abortion. Right?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
of course. Well, yeah, of
No,
course.
no, I said-
Until it's not, of
Good
course.
practices.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can tell me if you want me to just, my plan is to just focus on the big ticket items. If any of the language kind of driven changes we want to discuss, of course, we can do that too. So on the first page of the policy, you will see the third paragraph is a new paragraph, and I think spells out really the intent of this change better than I did in my opening memo. So I'll just read that. I won't read a lot verbatim, but I'll read this one. Employers are also prohibited from discrimination against employees or job applicants on the basis of reproductive health decision-making, defined as a person's decision to use or access a particular drug, device, product, or medical service for reproductive health. Better explanation, right? Going on to page 2 on letter E, require an applicant. So this is an unlawful practice list. Require an applicant or employee to disclose information relating to an employee's reproductive health decision making. A little bit below that, no employee shall, in exchange for a raise or bonus, use or as a condition of employment or continued employment, shall be required to sign or release an employee's claim or right to file a claim against the district or non-disparagement agreement or other document that has the purpose or effect of preventing the employee from disclosing information about harassment, discrimination, or other unlawful acts in the workplace, including any conduct that the employee has reasonable cause to believe is unlawful. So that's a new paragraph. I think that's the end of the meat, if I can call it that, the meat of reproductive decision making, but a lot of language updates in there too. Big questions.
Any questions? Let's keep us in compliance.
It's important stuff.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
It's added means somewhere
Yes.
that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem,
Yeah,
the worrying
absolutely.
part.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've never heard that term before, that was
Yeah.
reproductive health.
A reproductive decision. making.
Right, decision making, yeah.
So, should the board consider language?
I didn't hear you.
Should the board consider language, around ex-offenders?
Ex-offenders. In, for this policy?
Oh, right, this is on, hiring, right?
Mhm.
Well, like sex discrimination.
Ex-offenders.
Non-discrimination in employment.
Yeah, that's non-discrimination.
That's not a CSBA recommendation.
Wow.
Maybe one day. we'll-
Okay,
I don't-
that's more of a back, so
Yeah.
if you were convicted of something, then we don't want to see a.
That's not the case. I think you're talking about whether you can discriminate against someone.
Ex-offender. So you offended, you were somehow punished, and now you're not, so you're an ex-offender.
That's a new term. for
Yeah.
me.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you guys said that. I was trying to
Yeah.
pretend like it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's new to me.
Yeah, how about then, convicted criminal, does that work?
Well, yeah, but well, I don't want to get into HR, but
Right.
Yeah.
you know,
But so there's rules about discriminating against ex-offenders. I use that because that's the language I learned it in.
Mhm.
That's HR, that's not really.
Well, that's, this whole policy is HR,
Well, no, this policy has to deal with something completely different.
Yeah.
right? But so,
But HR does a background, and if they have a record that they will not be able to be employed, then that is known all through HR. It's not.
and they can't
Right.
take certain jobs, somebody who's
Yeah.
convicted of
Yeah.
child molestation can't work
Can't
at
be
a
in a
school.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that takes out. And that's why ex-offender.
Phil, I would
is
just
a
say,
broad term.
Yeah, I'm hearing your point, that I wouldn't want to move forward with something like that until, like, if CSBA legal vets that and recommends language. That to me is a lot more comfortable place to be than trying to
so
create it
like, yeah, I
ourselves.
was in my 20s and I got busted for shoplifting, and so now like the district can say, we're gonna discriminate against you because you're an ex-offender.
You're off the board.
I think it's something where there may very well already be existing practice
Yeah,
and
right.
policy that we're not aware of from where we sit as trustees.
Right, that's all HR.
Right, so I appreciate the spirit behind, I think what I'm hearing is like, we don't want to discriminate, right, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We want people to have opportunity to serve, and we want to ensure.
Are you saying like,
Also-
are there certain offenses that we would then not consider you for a job for if you had committed a certain crime or something?
So there's language out there now, going around out there, and that is that you can't discriminate against somebody because they made a mistake and they paid the price. So now they're clean, and so you can't use that to discriminate against hiring them.
And that's HR, that's
Yeah.
misdemeanors.
No,
That could go to felonies too.
Felonies too.
Well, that's. a
Right.
whole nother- that's a
I mean, this
whole
sounds
nother-
to me though, like we're
As far as this goes,
curious
and
about.
just
Policy.
narrowing our focus,
Yeah,
this policy is great.
Yeah.
Right, certainly the addition, I think, is welcome and 100%.
Yeah.
An ex-offender to
Yeah.
think that through a little bit in another form, yep.
okay,
Great.
all right,
Another agenda item.
all right,
All
to
right.
move on to the next one after we check and see if we have any public comment. Oh, hello, sir.
Yeah.
Welcome. I bet you came from somewhere interesting too.
Did you win?
Yeah, no public comment on this policy on discrimination, nothing on email. And is this one we can bring back in consent?
Yeah.
Okay,
Holy cow, so there is a lot to do, because look at everything, every note every link.
Yeah.
At the bottom of this is health and welfare, military, family recruitment, it's everything that would probably cover ex-offenders.
Correct. It's a good question and
Yeah,
one that there's probably a wealth of information. I'd hate for us to get something wrong.
Yeah.
Are we okay to move on?
Yeah.
Okay. We are at our action items. First one is to consider approving the proposed contract is a mouthful, contract to conduct topographical and mapping services by GV Land Surveying for New Brighton Middle School field. Yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of set up both action items a little bit collectively, if that's okay. So, I think everybody in the community who has a stake in schools would agree that our fields need to be improved, right? And so, and we've also talked here under a different item about a facilities, long-term facilities master plan. So it's kind of with those two big things in mind. And then starting to peel that back a little bit while we develop that long-term facilities master plan, which is a commitment that I made. But also not just waiting until that's developed to move on something that, that there's a common sense element that needs to be prioritized. And I would, offer conjecture that common sense movement is the New Brighton field. All of our kids feed through New Brighton. We have interscholastic sports. Great timing, Mr. We have an award-winning PE team that teaches out there on a daily basis. And so it would seem, common sense would say, if we have a little funding, we can't do all our projects yet, but if we're going to prioritize something, that might be a common sense place to start. So it's with that in mind that these two items, if we're going to get that ball rolling, and there's still a lot of work to do, and there's still a lot of weighing in you'll need to do to give me the right direction. But let's not wait on that, on things that we can be doing now. And some of that is the survey work, right? And so the first item is for topographical and mapping services. And that I will also say both of these items come through our work with our district architect. 916, I think they're called now. They used to be Maddie. Ralph LaRue is chief architect there. And so these are companies that he works with, recommended. So they're obviously not pulled from the blue. Not my area of expertise, but in working with Ralph and learning a little bit more, I'll just give a brief definition. A topographic survey locates all surface features of a property, depicts all natural features and elevations, kind of like a three-dimensional map of a property showing all natural and man-made features, specifically showing location, size, height, and any changes in elevation. So
Like
this is,
Belfer Mounds.
yeah, so sadly, not true. I mean, it's sadly true. But yeah, getting a lay of the land, I guess, would be the layman's way to say it. And this is a contract with the company that Ralph has worked with and recommends to get that part of the work done, GB Land Survey.
First thing, kind of, was it only, do we get a bid? Is it a bid process?
This doesn't reach the threshold of the bid, so we can just
So we're just
contract with.
taking one person that this guy recommends.
Yeah, it would take a lot of, I mean, with the amount of, we're trusting Ralph on this and trusting his long history of work and using the right companies and everything.
What are the, I know we've talked in past and bandied about using the Monterey field in conjunction with our field for a sports complex. Would there be a way to get the city of Capitola's input to maybe approve, if we're going to do the topical evaluation on our field, can we include their field as well? Because that way it might open up different possibilities in the future of combining the two fields for what we need to do. I mean, killing two birds with one stone.
So it's a really great question. And I appreciate especially the practical nature of the question. And so I'm going to be real careful for myself not to put the cart before the horse, because like I said, there's still a lot of work to be done. I don't want to just assume that I can say, how this project is going to go. That caveat out of the way. I will say that in working with the PE team, even a little bit with athletic director over there, we think that we can fit the right size field on our property. And when I say the right size field, I mean a middle school aged official soccer field It's 110 yards long and 65 yards wide. And that we would just need, in order to get a nice, good rectangle on our side, we just need a little cooperation from the city. And while we certainly don't have anything official, so I want to make that abundantly clear. I will say, and we talked about this a little bit at our JLC, we have, I would say, a level higher than just goodwill about it. We have some real clarity that that's a strong possibility that we could do something in the vein of like a land swap, that we would just get a little corner over where that berm is dividing Monterey Park
Right.
and the field. You could just get a little bit of that and call it ours. We could give up a little bit of, for example, I'm not saying this is a done deal, but we could give up perhaps along the back of our property. If you've ever walked through that little alleyway where you can walk on the backside, the neighborhood in the back neighborhood,
Yeah.
kind of give up a little strip along there so that if we were to fence off our field, community could still access that pathway and get to Monterey Park. There's some real low hanging fruit here where they could help us out and we could help them out and get it on our side, which is beneficial for a lot of reasons. One, it just makes it more convenient that it's our fields on our property, our games are there, our PE teachers teach there. It also gives access to a bathroom, which is on the end of our newest wing. Bathrooms are often a sticking point in trying to develop these kind of projects. Ours is already baked in if we have it there. It allows the solar structure, the solar shade structure to serve a real benefit in having bleachers under there and being weather protected from sun and rain.
I remember that was the
And,
idea.
and perhaps a track around the field that would include 100-meter dash along the backside of that. So that's a long answer to say, I don't think we need Monterey Park. We just need a little cooperation from the city. And never say anything's for sure, but I would say I'm confident that we can get there easily on that part of it.
And what do you mean when you say a field? So would that encompass a baseball diamond, a soccer field and a track, and we'd be really all inclusive?
Again, with the caveat that nothing's for sure yet, but
100%.
I think brainstorming and just talking with Ralph and kind of just sketching some things out.
Yeah.
We could get a nice practice baseball field out there. Of course, it wouldn't be like a dirt diamond or anything because this would all be,
And it's middle school.
a surface, yeah. But going back to the Gophers, if you ever walk out there now where the Little League practices fielding a grounder out there, I don't know how they do it. Like
Yeah.
they should all be all-stars by the time they're done playing on that field. This would be a nice flat surface, for Little League to practice on. And we have a great relationship with Little League, so I'm sure we could partner with them. And it would be one big regulation soccer field that I mentioned, but then lines drawn out so there could be two practice soccer fields. So multiple teams to be practicing simultaneously. The layout that I'm hoping for and that I think, a lot of us are envisioning would be very similar to what's at Shoreline. Ralph and his team were the architects of that facility, which we hear a lot. Why can't we have one like Shoreline? Not in
Yeah.
in
Spent
a
a lot
negative
of
way,
time.
but just like, hey, they have one. they
Yeah.
like, hey,
I'm sure we all have.
Okay.
110 by
So-
65. And I mean, I will just say, I don't think you would mind me mentioning, Ashley Edgar is a pretty well-known soccer coach in the area. And those are the dimensions he asked for and said, look, we can
Let's
fit
do it.
this. We can
Yeah.
fit this in here. Let's do it.
Sorry.
So with that caveat,
Yeah.
can we add that berm or that thing to the top garage to
It's
this?
included.
It is?
Yeah, they did. They did because Ralph worked with them on
So is,
that potential.
that was gonna be my follow-up question. This picture
Mhm.
that, so everything within the red is
Yep.
what we're talking about. Okay, so if you scroll down to the,
Yeah, I saw it the other
that
day.
photo. So there we go. That's great.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you for getting their
Yeah.
cooperation with that.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
So thankful that it could be a real community win. if we can pull
Yes.
this off.
Yeah. Good question. Thank you.
Yeah, great question.
Any other questions from the board? I think we're all excited about the opportunity to take some steps.
Yeah, I was looking for the actual part where that you said we were gonna not give up, but
Yeah, I don't have that
horse trade.
here, but so this is like a first step. Let's make sure while we're developing all of that and working out, because it'll need to be like a memorandum of understanding and that sort of thing. Let's not lose time. So this is a thing that has to happen while we're doing all that
I
other
love it.
stuff.
Let's move the ball forward.
Yeah.
You got
I
it.
like it.
So I don't know if this will have an impact, but out here in a little parking lot, there's that structure of utilities.
Mhm,
That's an easement that we granted to whoever, I think it was PG&E,
mhm.
that's our property,
Yeah.
so they have access. So I don't know if that shows up on here.
That's the one right by the district office,
Yeah,
between the
right up-
district and Monterey Park.
Yeah. right,
Yeah.
the
They
first
still have
parking lot.
access.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, oh yeah, they'd still have access and it doesn't impede these
Yeah.
plans, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
And
Team.
just in terms of logistics, where the gate is that goes to the residential area, that's, they still have all the access.
If
that
this
still
plan
works.
comes to fruition, it will not only still be there, but right now, when you walk in there, like, it's just. Like, it kind of looks like Monterey Park and New Brighton is one big thing, right?
Yeah.
This plan would clearly distinguish between the two, but be an attractive way for people to still take that path and move right to Monterey Park. Without being in our field, let's say, for example, with a dog.
And this doesn't affect this too much, but earlier you mentioned a fence. Is your vision to have a fenced in
Yeah.
New Brighton
I think-
facility?
So I would say, short answer, yes, but with a lot of input from the community on what that fencing looks like and making a combination of. Some safe, some attractive, some welcoming, that'll take. All of these steps will take a lot of community input to get. it right.
100%. I was just
Yeah,
getting your vision and.
yeah.
Because that's important when you said fence.
Short answer,
Yeah.
yes, but with a lot of long answer.
Yeah.
And we'll put in stadium lights too.
Oh, yeah. I didn't mention the light. Sorry, just kidding. Just kidding.
Rolling is back. We are,
Yeah,
we are
That's solar
considering
heating
step
for the-
A.
Yeah.
We're considering
Okay.
step A.
Let's go.
That's great.
We're
Scott.
wanting very much to get to
Terrific.
step Z, but
Yep.
this is a great first step.
Yeah, very exciting.
Any other questions or comments up here? I'm certain we
This
might
is
have.
great. I'm glad we're moving.
Yeah.
finally
Yes,
Moving.
yeah.
All
Me
right, so
too.
we're considering the proposed contract to start the topographical and mapping services. That's our first action item. You've heard us talk a little bit. Any questions or comments?
Didn't you say maybe the work it up so?
That's for the track. They'll,
Yeah.
they'll grant, the track.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Yeah.
Just as the soccer coach for the girls team, could you mention that the dirt would be on the soccer field for a baseball field?
No, they were asking, would there be a baseball diamond? And I said it would just be drawn in with lines.
Oh,
There's not.
okay.
Not like the old, I don't know if you ever saw the old Oakland Raiders stadium, they have the
I-
football on the Oakland
Yeah.
A's infield,
No.
not that.
Field
Oh,
diamond.
No, just lines drawn in for baseball.
And then the other question that I have is, because I know that our PE department and our other school staff at New Brighton has been very concerned about the space that the solar panels take up on the field. Does this plan include the fact that the solar panels are there and taking up space that is then unable to be used as field space?
It's a positive. The field would be right next to them and it would serve as a place for spectators to sit on bleachers and be protected from the sun or any other weather elements. So, and still fit that whole field on it.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for the questions and the
Yeah,
comments.
and awesome teaching our girls soccer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Way to go. Thank you for stepping up.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. We gotta get ourselves out in some games.
Yeah.
All
for
right.
sure.
There we go.
You absolutely should. All of our sports teams are really awesome to see, so.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I assume we don't have any email
Nothing on,
comments on this. Okay, well then I think we're ready for a motion and a vote. Do I have a motion to approve? Phil moves. Do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
It's competitive first and second.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, it's fast as you say.
You got it.
All
The
right,
next one.
all in favor? Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Thank you. The contract is approved. Looks like we've got
Yay.
another important one, so
Yes.
thank you.
another one we can do while we develop all the big picture stuff.
Mhm.
So all the same setup, but instead of seeing what the lay of the land looks like, we need to know what's in that dirt and make sure that it's proper to build on, safe to build on, all that good stuff. So that's a geotechnical investigation. And again, this is a company that Ralph has worked with on many projects to make sure the land we're gonna build on is has the right kind of soil.
All right.
And the photos in here are not. New Brighton.
Yeah, that's just their company promotional stuff.
Yeah.
I saw that, I was like, oh, you're gonna see that. It's like, oh, is that the field?
Questions, comments from the board?
Questions. So, a few years ago, the board voted to destroy the garden and the greenhouse at New Brighton because we wanted to put a two-story building in, but we were convinced to put a one-story building in with the promise that the garden and the greenhouse would be replaced. And so on the drawing that I saw, I don't see those on here. So is that another drawing?
Well, this is specifically for the field.
Right.
If you, I mean, I think in the master facilities plan that those kind of items can be addressed, and there is some gardening space at New Brighton that the healthy living class and other students use.
Right.
So it's not a total washout, but I hear what you're saying, like
Yeah.
the ability to have students at all levels. I mean, our elementary schools have them. We want our middle schools to have that opportunity, our middle school to have that opportunity. So to me, that would be part of the master facilities plan, whereas
Right.
this is specifically for the.
So we had members of the chamber,
Yeah.
Granite Construction, a bunch of families put in that garden and build that greenhouse, and then we destroyed it. And so there's been waiting for that to all be replaced at the same level.
Make sure that that is addressed. in
And so
master
the reason why I'm
facilities.
bringing it up here at this point is that if you're gonna be looking at what to build on, then there should be consideration that some of that space is gonna be a garden and a greenhouse. So that's one item. The other one is, will this then include being able to put sink a cistern in for rainwater collection? Or is that matter?
I think that that should be, as we develop this down the road, that all of that stuff has to be considered. I don't know if it needs to be considered at the point of the geotechnical
Right.
investigation, but all great questions.
Yeah, so if we want to bury a tank, do we need to have a geophysical look at the spot that we're gonna do it?
That's a question that can be explored, for sure.
My question on this was, when would the work potentially start, and would it be like disruptive to learning in any way? Is this something that's loud or?
Yeah, well, we'll make sure that it's not
Okay.
disruptive to learning, and Ralph works with schools a lot, so he knows that that's a no-go. So we'll take that. I think, I would imagine some of the work is and some of the work isn't
Okay.
impactful, so the work that is impactful will have to be done around school hours.
Well, if the survey crew has some time, I would love to have them go into one of our math classes and explain to them how it works.
You're always a step ahead. I'm sure they would welcome that.
Any other questions or comments from the board on this?
Let's get going.
All right,
I mean, to this.
I mean,
Out of here.
yeah.
Building on what Phil said, hey, I teach like a whole unit of geology.
Oh, yeah.
Out there.
Yeah. Let's get some hard hats out there and drill.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Why?
No, why?
Thank you. Any other public comment? Like, let's do this. Okay. I doubt we have any no
Nothing.
emails on this. Do you have a motion to approve this contract for the geotechnical?
I would like to
investigation?
make a motion to approve geotechnical.
Does Ted have a second?
I'll second it. Second it, yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah.
I do have one item of correspondence, written correspondence. The board president has the pleasure of getting the occasional document from the COE. So this is something that came the day after our last board meeting, but it's approving the LCAP. So I am, the board president is CC'd on something that is sent to folks in the district, of course. This is not news to anyone. And they sent it to your home address, so future presidents look forward to that. But I do have that piece of correspondence.
Don't throw
Okay.
that away.
You get something in the mail from the COE and you're like,
It's
what
good
happened?
news.
It is good news. Any future agenda items to be noted for now?
So,
Oh.
not sure if it's agenda item. Go ahead.
You started
no,
it.
okay. So, could we put on recognition of service years? On the agenda,
So,
or you could just read them out,
a board version of what we do at the kickoff. Is that, am I hearing?
or just
make sure.
report out when you do your report out. You got what?
Sure, yeah.
Something, so there's that. Again, don't know if this is an agenda item, but could the board consider putting a pride flag in our board?
I'm gonna vote.
And then, could we get a presentation on the facilities master plan? In the past, a board member or two were on that group.
I don't know about a presentation yet because it's gonna be some work just getting it up and running, but once we get it up and running, of course, definitely board input.
Yeah, volunteer to be on that one.
Okay.
I was on it before, so.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Well.
Hmm.
It's just minor. It's just that going through the bylaws, they're all mostly 2018.
Mhm.
So everybody just kind of eyeball the bylaws and more bylaws, a couple more 2023, but it'd be nice to get them up. Pretty much to date. I mean, it's close, but
Yeah, so I don't, some of them probably haven't been updated by CSBA.
yeah, well, I
But-
just noticed the dates, but
Yeah.
anyways. Bring them all in one agenda item, right? And we'll just review them all.
I will cross-reference the CSBA.
Yeah. But any of us at any time, we can look,
Yeah.
you know, the bylaws are ours, right? They're
Yeah,
the
yeah.
policies and the bylaws are really about us, what we do, how we conduct ourselves. So at any point, like if you're saying, hey, team, like, take a little time, sit down with a cup of coffee, read the bylaws, see if there's something that you think needs to be brought to the board. You
Right.
can ask for us to take another look at it.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Especially if the page is typewritten.
Yeah. Went through a hand crank zero.
Yeah, okay.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. We are adjourned at 9:08 PM. Thank you, thank
See,
you.
buddy, not a bully.
Night.